about fanning the flames of desire. And we are so blessed to have John and April Nixon. All I can say is you're definitely in for a treat. I listened to the program where they were celebrating their 20-year wedding anniversary. And I thought, how have they been married for 20 years when they only look 20? Because they look really young and fresh, you know? But I'm sure they'll tell us a little bit more about themselves. Welcome to Pastor Augustus Lawrence. He's the Commander-in-Chief today. And so we'd like to welcome him. And it's good. The last time we saw him was a bit unwell. So we praise God for his healing because they had a bit of a rough time. COVID was not being friendly to people in the Southeast. But we praise God that you're better. And I'm just going to pass over to Pastor Lawrence now. And would you like to say a welcome and opening prayer for us, Pastor?
Thank you so much, Nosy. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. On behalf of the South England Conference, my president, Dr. Emmanuel Osei, Dr. Emmanuel Osei, my executive secretary, Pastor Douglas McCormack, and Sister Candy Lawson, who is our treasurer, and all of the directors. And I want to welcome all of you to this very interesting, mind-blowing afternoon with John and April Nixon. I have listened to the program. You are in for a treat, as Nosy said. We want to welcome both of them to our conference, and to all of you, we pray that this afternoon's program will inspire you to do great things. I want to welcome all of you too from all over the South England Conference, and I think also some people are here from the North and other places. I want to welcome all of you to this South England from the Ministries initiative. I pray that you will be blessed, as well as your marriage and your relationship. Pastor John and April, I'm going to turn it over to you now and allow you to introduce yourselves and carry on.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you very much, Pastor Lawrence. And we do want to thank you again for the invitation. Of course, I think everyone knows this was scheduled for February, and we got the news that you and your wife had contracted the virus, and we began to pray immediately. Mm-hmm. We were looking forward to that date, and once we heard your news, that sort of took everything over. We stopped caring about the event, and we were just pouring our hearts out to God for you, because we have lost 2 or 3 people. Mm-hmm. We have lost to COVID, mm-hmm. And so we were very nervous, and we were praying earnestly, and we are happy to see that you are fine.
Yes, so happy.
Yes. Thank you. So we're very excited about that. And we're very happy to be here. So thank you again for the invitation. Thank you for allowing us to be here. We're obviously still at home. We are still in our, I guess we're in our studio here. So it's nice to see you. It's okay that we're doing this virtually. We understand that we're all trying to be safe. It would be a lot better, though, if we were there with you in person. And hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Maybe
yes.
One day.
Hopefully we'll be able to do that soon.
I think I need to pray.
Yes. Feel free.
Apologize. Yeah. I forgot also to introduce my wife, Barbara. She's in the other room. She's still recovering, but she's tuned into this to us right now. Let's pray. Father, we just want to thank you for this time together. We pray you'll be with John and April as they lead out, and all of us as we're listening. May our time together be an inspiring time, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Okay. So I guess we should start by introducing ourselves. I'm John.
I'm April.
We've been married for 20 years. Yes, that is correct. We may look younger than we are, but we feel old.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, maybe I just feel old.
Yes.
So we have 2 children. Our son, John the third, he's 16. Our daughter, Julia, is 13. Mm-hmm. And so we need your earnest prayers. We have teenagers, obviously. And we have been involved in couples ministry, I guess, for 20 years. we really began this sort of by accident. Our first church, when we started ministry, was in the year 2000. It was down in a place called Milledgeville, Georgia, a very small town. And there was a couple who wanted to get married. And so the husband-to-be asked me if I would do their premarital counseling. And so I agreed. It turns out he and his wife-to-be were both older than us and actually had children our age.
Mm-hmm.
We were very young.
At the time, we were about 22 years old.
22 years old, that's right. And we had them come over once for, I guess, just to meet them. We had them come over to have dinner so we could get to know them as a couple. And at the end of that time together, the wife-to-be, she thought that that was our first session. And she asked, is April going to be here for the next session? And I didn't have the heart to tell her that wasn't actually a session. But I said, do you want her to be here? And she said, yes, I think that would make me feel very comfortable. And so we looked at the husband-to-be, and he said, yes, I would love that too. And we said, okay. And so our very first counseling session was together. And from then on, we just continued to do it together. And that made a real difference. You know, April's a teacher. Teaches middle school now.
Teacher. Yeah.
And so she's very creative, and she came up with a lot of activities and things that you would do to make things more interactive and to make the concepts more understandable. And so we really made a good team. So we've been enjoying it. We love it. And I think since then we said we would love to be able to do this on a larger scale, maybe like as a ministry. So a couple of years ago, we started YouTube channel. We call it Just John and April. In fact, I'll put something up right now so that you can know where to follow us if you want to go. You can see us on all of our platforms. We're on YouTube. It's at Just John and April. So you can go youtube.com/Just John and April, or you could just go to YouTube and search Just John and April. But the same thing for Facebook and Instagram. And you'll see our ministry stuff that we do there. We're currently involved in our first sort of large group couple coaching online thing. We're doing it. It's called a 30-day intimacy boot camp. And we started it on March the 1st. And we've been going through that. We have about 41 couples that have signed up, and we've been interacting with them. We love it. This is what we love. It's great. It's our passion.
It is.
And we feel like the Lord gave this to us as something that he wants us to do as a ministry to help to enhance people's relationships and all of that. Let me say one more thing. I don't know if you guys have this issue across the pond, but here we have real struggles with people remaining married. But not only that, the people who are married, a lot of them are unhappily married. And so our mission is to help people to see that your marriage does not have to be terrible. It should not be miserable. You both decided that you were going to get married. It was a voluntary thing. And if you just had the tools to be able to work things out a little bit better, we think you would enjoy marriage so much more. So we want people to not just be married and stay married. We want them to thrive and to be happy and to enjoy marriage.
So we feel like in marriage, you should be working smarter, not harder.
Yes.
So like in our 30 intimacy boot camp and what we're going to talk about today, we just feel like our tools that can help you to work smarter. Sometimes we just don't know what to do.
Right.
You know, we don't have those tools. So that's what we try to teach. And we're going to launch the 30-day. We're going to have another one. So I see some people saying, I wish I had known.
Yeah.
Just follow us and you'll get that information when it happens.
I actually think the next one will probably be not next month, but the following month. So
May.
This one will be done in April. In March, we'll take April to regroup. And then in May, we'll launch another one, I think. That seems to be the plan. So we'll definitely make sure we pass information along to Pastor Lawrence and those who are part of your conference, that you're available and you know what's going on. We'll make sure you stay abreast to what's happening. But let me just use this illustration to kind of help you with the idea of what April was just saying. We love to play golf. Golf is one of our favorite sports. One of the reasons we like it a lot is because you get to walk and get good exercise. It's not that strenuous on the body, and so we can play it we wanted to find something we could stay active with into our 80s, you know, and there are people that play golf in their 80s. So we like it for that reason. And we play it when we can. Golf is a funny sport because it's very difficult and you really don't get that proficient at it. You get better at it over time, but you're always thinking you're not that good. It's like when you just start to learn how to do something, there's some other problem because there are so many different parts of golf that are difficult to master. And so because of that, you're constantly, you know, working on it. But what I've noticed is after 20 years of playing, because we started playing around 2002 when we went to the seminary. After 20 years of playing, I'm at a point now where I at least know what I did wrong. And that's a huge part of making golf more enjoyable. If I hit the ball and it goes to the right, I know what I did wrong in that situation. And so it helps me to try to correct it the next time. It was extremely frustrating when we first started playing because I could never figure out what am I doing wrong. You know, I'd hit the ball straight and off, man, that felt so good. And then the next time I swing, I hit the ball to the left and I don't know why it went left instead of going straight. Well, now that I know, I don't always fix it perfectly, but I at least know what to do. And it makes it so much more enjoyable. Well, it's the same thing in this case. With your marriage, knowing what to do and being able to diagnose what that was and knowing, okay, I think that happened because this is what I need from my spouse and she didn't give it to me. Those are things that I think can make marriage so much more enjoyable. And if people just had those tools, they'd be able to say, I love being married.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about desiring your spouse every year through the building of friendship.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So we want to start with a quick poll. And so we hope that you are able to
Hopefully
answer
you can
these
see
questions
this.
and you can see this. So we're going to go ahead and launch the first question here. And let's see.
It should say friendship is an important component of our marriage.
So you're answering this together with your spouse.
Everybody says,
okay,
oh,
very good.
Okay. Sometimes I guess sometimes. Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give them 1 minute.
Yeah, maybe we'll go to 1 minute. We've got 15 seconds left to get to that point. 66% of you have voted so far. I hope everybody can see the poll. It should pop up right on your screen.
Okay, so far, 82% says always, 18% sometimes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So that's good. So clearly we're talking to a
moving.
group of people that thinks that friendship is an important aspect of our relationships. That's good. Okay, we'll go to the next question now. What do you want me to do? Oh, that's true. I can share these results. Can you guys see this? And you can see what that poll ended up looking like.
Yes.
80% said always, and then 20% said sometimes. Not everybody voted there, but hopefully we'll get more on this one. Here is our second polling question.
We have specific activities to develop our friendship.
Okay.
Sometimes.
All right, we'll give it another 20 seconds or so. So we have 1 minute there. Ten more seconds. Okay. Now, this is interesting because most people said we definitely think this is an important thing, but we don't have as many people saying they always have activities to develop their friendship. We have 71% saying sometimes, and then 15% saying never. So we all agree that, friendship is important, but we're not necessarily working on that. All right, so here's the third one.
Okay, we were good friends before we got married, but now we are not as close.
Oh, this one's closer.
All right, we'll take 20 more seconds.
20 more seconds, okay. Okay, 10 seconds. All right, now this is the third and last question we're going to ask as part of this session. I'm going to end the poll now, and I'm going to show you the results. And, when you're asking questions, thank you, by the way, someone said excellent questions. Sometimes the questions that we ask may not be as excellent. This one could mean two things.
Yes,
it could mean, yes, we were friends and now we're not as close. It could also mean we were never actually that close, So anyway, what we're hoping you mean when you say no is that we are still good friends.
And still good friends.
We're assuming that's what you're answering there.
Yes.
And so 62% are saying, yes, we were good friends. And we still are. And we're still good friends. Yes. Exactly. 36% are saying, 38% are saying that they actually aren't as close as they once were.
Right.
So this is an important topic then. That's what that means. This shows us that this is something we should be talking about today.
Exactly. Yeah. And we believe that becoming best friends actually enhances your relationship.
It does.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with our text.
All right. So we're going to begin in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 and 10 in the New Living Translation. Here is what the Bible says.
2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone,
that thing's in the way.
It is.
I don't know if you can see that. If I do this, you'll be able to see it. Okay, there we go.
But someone who falls alone is in real trouble.
Okay, there we go. So I had to move something from the screen so that April can keep reading. This is an important text to understand because we use this a lot when we're talking about things like marriage, when we're talking about Ecclesiastes. But the aspect of this that I think is important to see is that there's clearly something involved here when it comes to the idea of friendship. Why do I say that? Because if you are, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. This really describes friendship, in my opinion. You have to care about somebody in order to see that they've fallen and to help them up. That's an important aspect of it. And so I think sometimes it's easy for us to lose sight of something as important as friendship in marriage. And so this is why we asked that last question, because I think what happens a lot of times is we're friends before we get married. And then once we get married, the complications of life and the things that go along with keeping a relationship and a family going sometimes distract us from keeping a friendship going. And we don't realize that in order to stay friends, you have to be deliberate about it. You have to be really trying to have a friendship.
Yes.
So we want to show you some of those things today.
Yes, and we have to understand that friendship actually fans the flames of romance.
Yes.
We kind of separate that. We don't think friendship has to do with romance, but it actually does.
It really does.
So I want you to put the definition of friendship right now.
Here's
so friendship, a relationship between people who like each other and enjoy each other's company.
Yes.
So this is more than just, I love my spouse. We love each other.
Yes.
We know that.
Yes.
But do we like each other?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do we like to be with each other? Do we like to hang out? We feel like it's very important that as friends in marriage, we want it to be where you have a homie, you know, you have an ace. This is your person. This is who you go to, your bestie. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is the thing. Friendship is so important to a relationship, but it's important in a way that we don't connect. What April just said. The romance part, we don't think friendship has anything to do with that.
Right.
We just assume that friendship will allow us to have more fun together. We can enjoy more stuff. We can do things. We can go out, or we can go to a park, or we can go to a restaurant to eat, or to a concert. And I can do that with my spouse as a friend. That's what we think about. But we don't realize that there's a connection also to romance and how you enjoy each other physically. That all is tied in with friendship.
Exactly. So when that friendship begins to change, like you said earlier, your friends in the beginning, and then once you get married, circumstances and children and work and all that comes in, and you have not continued the friendship or kept it going. And so what happens is you wonder, why is the intimacy going away? When really it was the friendship that kind of broke that intimacy as well.
Yes, right.
Because it all ties in together.
It does.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at our 3 areas that we're going to discuss today.
Yes.
Let's start with the first one.
So the first area we're going to discuss, we need to start with a text. Okay. So we're going to show you this text here, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 17 and 18. And this will give us, I think, the catalyst for why it is that we're looking at this first point. So go ahead.
Okay. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be.
Okay. Now, this is an important text because it describes God's intention when he made us in the first place. And this actually gives us a clue into the very first point. I'm going to show you the first point now. Here it is.
Initiating your friendship.
Okay. There is no true friendship without acceptance. No true friendship without acceptance. Now, we need to start here because some of you don't have a friendship. You may think you do, but you may not actually have one. Some of you had a friendship years ago and maybe it's gone away. Some of you were better friends than you are, and you're trying to figure out how you can get that back. Well, it starts with acceptance.
Yes.
This is the most important aspect of it. All right, so the Bible text, let me throw it back up one more time, just so you can see it. When Paul discusses the idea of being part of the body of Christ, he's using a metaphor now to talk about what it's like to join the family of God. Okay. So Paul says, you have now become a Christian. You are now part of this family. And I want to describe what it's like. It's like being part of a body. Let's call it the body of Christ. And then he says, everybody is a body part. Every single person. You're probably familiar with this. Somebody's an ear, somebody's an eye, somebody's a hand. And Paul says that each one of those body parts is important. And he says it's so important that they're indispensable. If you were to get rid of a body part, you would no longer have what that body part brings. So he says, if you get rid of the ear, there will be no sense of hearing. If you get rid of the nose, there'll be no sense of smell. If you get rid of the eyes, you wouldn't be able to see. So Paul is saying each part of the body is indispensable. You all need to be there. But then he puts this one thing in, which we just saw just now. He says that God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. Now, that's an important phrase that people don't understand. That phrase basically means if we are all body parts, and if God designed the body, then he put me as the nose. Let's say that's what I am. I'll say that because I have a big nose. I'm the nose. God placed me right here on the face exactly as he wanted me to be. Let's say April is the eyes because she looks beautiful. Okay, so the eye, God placed the eyes exactly where he wanted it to be. That really means this. God created you just as he wanted you to be. He made you like that on purpose. Now, a better way of saying it is this. God made your spouse like that on purpose.
Yes. So in our marriages, it's so important. The first step towards friendship is accepting each other for who you are.
That's it.
Okay. And we're talking about the core you.
Yes.
So for example, I'm an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's an extrovert. That's something that we're not going to change.
Right.
You know, my core self, I'm an introvert. I do not get energy from being with a lot of people.
No, she does not.
Even though I enjoy it.
Right.
But we're just different in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So if I tried to change him into an introvert, I would be taking away what God created and what God set in place on purpose.
Yes. And it turns out that the thing that I am drawn to, we don't realize this, the thing that I'm drawn to in my spouse, the thing that attracted me to April initially was what I saw on the outside. So I immediately felt something that said, I want to pursue this more. But that's not enough to marry somebody. The thing that made me want to join with her were the things that I could not see on the outside, the things that she has different from me that actually help to make me a better person. And that's what we don't realize. We don't recognize that the moment we try to change our spouse, we usually are trying to change them to be like us. When we do that, we begin to miss out on the very thing that God designed them for me.
Right. So we call this the Adam and Eve effect.
Yeah.
So when God created Adam and he had him go name the animals and everything, and he realized, you know, I'm the only one that doesn't have anyone. God then took his rib and created Eve. Now, let me ask you this. Did God ever ask Adam, you know, what is it that you want? Give me a list.
Yeah, give me a list of your perfect woman.
Right. No, God knew what Adam needed.
Yes.
And he provided that for him. So if you feel like the Lord put you and your spouse together,
right,
that means that God created this person for you and you should accept this person for who they are, the way that God created them.
Yes.
And when we don't, what happens is it actually causes us to kind of turn away from each other.
Yes.
You know, if I don't feel accepted, I'm not going to really want to really express this friendship,
right,
or build this marriage in a way, because I don't feel like you accept me for who I am.
Very true.
And now there's a thin line, because we're not saying you should accept bad behavior.
Right.
Okay. There's a difference there.
Yes.
There's behavior, and then there's who you really are.
Yes. But here's the thing. It turns out that the stuff that I want to change in my wife, when I initially think about it, that's actually the exact same thing that I enjoy most of the time. I just don't realize it.
Right.
So I'll give you an example of this. So April is a sensitive person. And usually when we were at least younger in our relationship, the word sensitive was a negative word. You're so sensitive. Why do you have to be so sensitive? That was a negative thing that would creep into our disagreements or something like that. If I said something and I may have been a little bit too harsh, and April began to change her countenance and began to be sullen now, where she was previously much more energetic, I would say, why do you have to be so sensitive? So it was a negative to me. Now, let's just say that of the time that we're relating to each other, only 10% of the time are we getting into arguments. So only 10% of the time, and by the way, not even every time we got into an argument did she show that sensitivity, only some of those times. So let's say 5% of the time that we interact with each other, April shows that sensitivity from a negative standpoint. Now, here I am praying to God that would change, that she would not be so sensitive. Well, here's the problem. One time I called April, she called me on the phone, and I answered the phone. This is early in our relationship. We weren't even married yet. We were still in college. I answered the phone. I said, hello. She said, what's wrong? I said, what do you mean what's wrong? She said, you sound different. I said, how do you know? I only said one word. She said, I don't know. I can just tell you sound different. She was right. Something had happened about an hour before. I had gotten to some kind of confrontation with somebody, and I was still upset about it. And April could tell with one word that there was something wrong with me. You know what that is? That's her sensitivity. It's because she's sensitive. She can pick up on things like that. And I love that about her. It's actually 95% of the time an amazing attribute that I didn't even connect with the thing that I was getting annoyed by 5% of the time. So here I am trying to change my spouse into something else, when in fact, I love that same thing 95% of the time. So it doesn't even make any sense. It's really dumb of us. We don't realize it. It actually goes against what we need, because God created our spouses like that on purpose, and he put them with us on purpose so that we could enjoy something and appreciate something, but also so that we could grow in an area where we're deficient.
Exactly.
And so I love the fact that she's sensitive. If I tried to change that for the 5% of the time, I'd be losing out on a huge thing. God made April exactly as he wanted her to be.
So it's so important that we don't criticize or judge our spouses for who they are.
Right.
That's something that they cannot really change in that way. The only person that can change us is God.
That's right.
Okay. So if that's something he wants us to change in, he will have to reveal that to us.
But listen to this though. The only person that can change us is God. But if God made us deliberately as he made us, why would he change that?
Right.
So in other words, why would God make April into an extrovert when he made her an introvert? And that was what he was doing on purpose.
That's right. That's right. So we should not make our spouses feel like they are wrong for who they are.
Right. And we do that a lot.
We do that a lot.
Yes.
We do.
And when we do that, we're really blocking ourselves from being able to have a real friendship with them.
Yes. And what we're also saying is, God, you made a mistake.
Right.
You did not do this right.
Yes.
And so we feel like it should begin with taking the time to purposely accept your spouse for who they really are, and making sure that you build that in your spouse, that I accept you for who you are. And then that relationship, that friendship will begin to grow.
Now that we said all that, let's define the word acceptance.
Okay. We haven't done that
So
yet.
here's the thing about the word acceptance. If you look it up in the dictionary, you're not going to find this specific definition, because this is something we made up.
We kind of had to read all the definitions, and then we came up with one that we felt like really said it the way we needed it.
Because it's hard to define the word acceptance without using the word accept, but we found a way to do it. Here it is. You ready?
Okay. Recognizing each other's uniqueness and determining not to change the other person.
Beautiful. Recognizing each other's uniqueness.
Yes.
And saying, I'm not changing that. That's acceptance.
Wow.
So where we are unique, where we are different from each other, we have to acknowledge God did that on purpose. And if we believe that God brought us together, he purposely put us together because there's something about my uniqueness that helps you, and there's something about your uniqueness that helps me, and it makes us a better whole. Remember, the two are becoming one flesh.
Right.
So recognize each other's uniqueness and then determine not to change the other person.
Are you ready to do that?
I think we are.
Okay, so we want to kind of practice how to just accept without judgment, without criticizing. So we're going to do something called a 5-minute drill.
Right.
Okay. And we call this $1 Million Dream. All right. So what we want you to do.
Hopefully your spouse is there with you. We don't see everybody on camera, so we can't tell. But if your spouse is there with you, I see somebody saying no.
Oh sorry.
But this is an opportunity, though, for you to be able to turn to your spouse and speak to them about something. We want you to do this.
Okay, so we want you to talk about a dream that you would have if you were given $10 million.
Yes.
Okay, let's just say you were given $10 million. What would you do with it? What is your dream, and how would that $10 million help you to fulfill those dreams?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you're talking to your spouse. So we don't want it to be where they shared the dream and you're like, why would you want to do that? No judgment. Okay.
Right. Yes.
No criticizing. You are just sharing what you would do, and then you're listening, and you take turns. So it'll be about maybe 2.5 minutes each, because this is a 5-minute drill. So we'll try to do this and see how that works. Okay, you ready? Can you put it? Oh, I don't think you can. Go. Let's see. All right, it begins. Let's start. Do you see it? Okay, here we go. You got it?
Okay, so you know what? I don't know. Could you guys hear music during that time?
We had music going. Could you hear that?
Yes, we did.
You did?
Oh, good,
Okay.
good. Okay.
Now I wonder if it was through our mic.
No, it
Maybe
wasn't.
not. Okay.
Yeah, I think you
That's good.
shared it like you
Okay, good.
All right. We hope you
Wonderful.
enjoyed that. We hope that you felt like your spouse accepted what it was that you shared.
Because that's part of what we're really doing there is sometimes accepting your spouse for who they are overlaps into accepting their hopes and dreams.
Yes.
You know
yes.
what I'm saying?
That's a big part.
It really is. And I think sometimes when you make me feel like what I'm dreaming about is stupid
Yeah.
or not worth anything,
yes,
whatever,
yes.
sometimes I feel rejected.
Right.
Sometimes it makes me feel like you
don't
care
like
about me. Right.
When it may not even be about that.
Right.
It could be just about the dream.
Right.
But what happens is something about marriage. This person is the only person that can make me feel like he doesn't like me
Right.
because he doesn't like my dream or
Right.
thinks that it's not, worth having.
That's true. When other people do that, I don't care.
No, exactly.
But when you do it, I take offense. I take it to heart for some reason. So if we're really going to cultivate, I mean, what was the first one? Not cultivate, initiate. If we're really going to initiate a friendship,
yes,
then it's really important for us to start with acceptance.
That's right.
Okay, so this is very important. All right, so we want to go to the second one now.
Okay,
all right.
The second one. Go ahead to the
is it a text first?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Here's the text. Genesis 2:24.
Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh.
Okay, now, before I show you what the second point is, I want to say that the key word in this text is the word cleave. Okay, cleave. Now, if you look it up in the dictionary, you're going to see that the word cleave actually has two definitions that are really opposite of each other. If I'm a butcher and I cleave a piece of meat, I'm actually going to separate it. But in this context, we're talking about joining together. Okay, so here is the second point.
Cultivating your friendship. There is no meaningful friendship without connection.
Wow. Can't have friendship without connection.
That's right.
So the first one said you can't have friendship without acceptance. This one says no meaningful friendship without connection. And the only way in marriage to really have a connection, you have to cleave. But you can't cleave unless you leave. Unless you leave. Very, very important.
This is so important. Look, we say that all the time about all of them. This is so important, but it is. They're all important.
That's true. They're all important.
But this one is important because if you are trying to connect with this new person,
yes.
Okay, and even if you've been in a relationship for a while,
my friend here.
Uh-oh.
Roger.
Somebody unmuted themselves.
Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
If you're trying to connect,
if you're trying to connect with your spouse,
yes.
Even after years of being together, and you still haven't left, that connection is going to be very hard to have.
Yes. So it's almost like, I guess if I have a fistful of change, let's say coins. What you guys use the pound there, right? Okay. Anyway, I have coins in my hand, right? And I've got, let's say I've got 4 quarters here. That's $1, and I'm holding it in my hand very tightly because I don't want to lose it. And someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I have $100 I want to give you, but I have to put it in that same hand." Now, the only way for me to accept that $100 bill, I have to open my hand to receive it. And maybe that change was so much that I have to actually get rid of it in order to receive this new $100. Well, it's kind of like that when you're talking about marrying someone. The Bible says you got to leave your father and mother in order to cling to your wife so the two can become one flesh. In other words, you can't hold on to this new thing unless you let go of that other thing.
Yes. And we've seen in many marriages where one did not leave their extended family.
Right.
Okay. And it caused a lot of issues in the marriage because there's so many other things that have come into the marriage from family and cause a lot of conflict between the two. So what we're saying is you don't have to cut off in a way where, you're not loving them. You're not taking advice from family or anything like that.
We're still doing
or
all
losing
that.
the relationship with them.
Right.
But what we're saying is when you've allowed family to come with you into the marriage, where it's causing conflict,
Yeah.
not sure you really left all the way.
Right. So the leaving looks different than you may think. Clearly, you probably all left your mother's home to join with your spouse. But there's another kind of leaving as well, which is you leave mentally,
yes,
emotionally, and of course, physically as well. Right. So this is an important thing. In order for me to really establish and to cultivate my friendship with my wife, I have to have left in order to do that.
Yes.
That's a very important step that a lot of people don't do.
And as you're starting your new home, or as you're continuing your family, because of course it's not necessarily new marriages, but sometimes the emotional leaving is what we have a hard time doing. Because, and this kind of goes back to acceptance as well, but when we first got married, we had a lot of issues with being able to start our new family and put aside the things that we grew up with enough to create our own thing. You know, not that you can't bring things in that you did when you were growing up, but to make it like that this is the only way, because this is how we did it growing up.
Right.
This is the right way. That's not really leaving all the way.
That's true.
And so that can cause conflict because you're still connected to that family so much so that you can't create your own new. And actually this can last throughout years of marriage.
Yes.
Where you never really were able to create your own new thing, to be able to create your own family here, because you're too stuck in this old way that you had growing up.
And you'd be surprised the amount of couples that we deal with that are struggling in their marriage because of this one thing, that they really were not able to ever establish an appropriate boundary that would allow them to become friends with their spouse. It's a very important aspect of what we do. Okay, so here is a definition, or a definition of connection.
Okay, to join, link, or fasten together.
Unite
or bind.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that.
Sorry. Is that wasn't there?
Yes, it's there.
So when we're talking about cultivating a friendship, we're talking about connection. You've got to have this connection with your spouse. And here's the thing that it does. It actually has a very good effect overall in your relationship, because it helps you to be able to get over conflicts later. Okay, so we said you really can't establish it in the first place. You've got to be able to have that connection in order for you to really have your new family. But there's this other aspect of connection that we want to show you that friendship helps you with. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize that one of the reasons why April and I, or any other couple that has a good friendship, one of the reasons why we're able to get through certain kinds of conflict is because there's this thing that overrides the negative. It's called positive sentiment override. Positive sentiment override. Here's what it is. It's when I have a friendship with a person, it allows me to think positively even in a negative situation, because I know the person and I know that their intentions for me are normally good. And so because of that, that friendship allows me to have positive sentiment override. So
what that does is it gives me the ability to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Okay. So there could be a situation that happens between us. And if I have PSO, positive sentiment override, I'm able to say, you know what? I know he really didn't mean that.
Right.
Because I know him.
Right.
He's my friend.
Right.
I know him.
Yes.
And I know that he would not do this on purpose. Let me find a reason why he may have done this.
Maybe he had a long day.
Maybe he's stressed out.
Yeah.
Let me look at all of the things. Let me look at everything, and let me move my mind away from what happened.
Right.
And let me see what he might be going through that caused this situation to take place. Okay. That's positive sentiment. I'm not going to have that if I don't have positive sentiment override. Now, if
you don't have a friendship,
if I don't have a friendship, I'm not going to be able to even create that.
That's right.
It's not even going to be able to be created.
It's not going to come to your mind.
So if there's no friendship there that has been building over time,
right,
it could be that you have NSO,
which is
negative sentiment override. So that I can never just allow him to be off, get him off. You know, I can never say, you know what, I understand you had a long day. You didn't mean that. I'm just going to go ahead and give him a pass.
What actually happens?
You can't really do that when you have negative sentiment.
When you have negative sentiment override, actually, you start seeing the negative even in the positive stuff.
Yeah.
So I may come and try to do something for you, like make you your favorite sandwich. And the first thing you see is, I don't like mayonnaise. Why would you put mayonnaise on this?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's negative sentiment override. Here I am trying to do something good for you, and you can't say anything but negative from it. And I'm saying people don't realize that the establishment of a friendship, we told you it helps with romance, but it also helps you to be able to get through conflicts that really sometimes might not be that big of a deal.
Right.
But if you had positive sentiment override there because you have a friendship, it would allow you to really be able to say, this may not be that big of a deal. Maybe it's because that's happening or this is going on, and you're able to get through that much more easily.
And this goes along with cultivating that friendship.
Yes.
So you are purposely doing things to cultivate, to build, to strengthen that friendship so that PSO comes naturally.
Yes. All right. So here's one way of getting that. Here's one way of getting to the place where you actually have positive sentiment override. There's this thing that is called, there's a group called the Gottman Institute. John Gottman is a very well-known and well-versed relationship expert.
Yes.
He has several books.
He's done studies.
Oh, yeah. And we've got a really good book right here that we use all the time. It's called 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by John Gottman. Excellent, excellent, excellent book. And so in this book, he talks about this thing. He talks about positive sentiment override, but he also talks about this other thing called bids for connection.
Yes.
Being able to recognize and understand a bid for connection actually helps to deepen a friendship with your spouse.
Right.
Now, a bid for connection is simply this. I am doing something, and I'm probably not going to come out and say it, but I'm doing something to demonstrate to you that I would like to connect with you emotionally right now.
So it's almost like I'm hinting that I want to connect with you, but I want you to catch this bid.
Yes, I want you to notice it without me coming out and saying it.
Right. I don't want to have to say, here's a bid,
here's a bid for connection. Please connect with me.
I want you to connect.
No.
It's, I'm throwing this out there and I want you to see it, catch it, and then respond positively.
Yes.
And actually that starts to put in those positive sentiment override that starts to build that up.
It does.
With these bids. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Here's an example of a bid for connection. So there was one day I've lost a few pounds and I was very happy about this.
More than a few.
I was very happy about losing this. This was actually quarantine weight.
We gained quarantine weight.
Lots of quarantine weight.
Yes.
And over just a few months.
Yeah.
And I was determined to get rid of that quarantine weight. So I actually got rid of it and more. And I was very excited. So I went and put on this dress that I was not able to get into.
Pause for a second.
Okay.
April does this thing. April will try out clothes, usually on Friday, to get ready for Sabbath. And so normally when she does it, she'll go through several dresses. And every so often she'll hit a dress that doesn't fit. And she'll usually be kind of upset that she can't fit that dress. And what she does is she puts the dress in a particular spot in the closet. And she says, I'm going to get back in that dress. You watch. That's what she does. Okay.
So this was one of those dresses. So
yes.
I get in the dress and I'm all excited, right? So I come out, I said, okay, I'm going to just come out of the closet with the dress on and I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to piddle and paddle around and see, I'm throwing out a bid, guys. Okay. And see if John will pick up the bid and say, oh man, look at you. You got into the dress. Oh my goodness. That's what I was needing. I needed that connection. Right. So I came out, I was piddling and paddling, and John looked up and I was like, here we go. Then he looked right back down. So he did not quite catch this bid.
Right.
So I was a little bit like, oh man, it really actually kind of made me feel bad. Not horrible, but it just made me feel like, man, I wasn't mad at him, but it was like, man, I really needed that connection. So, I took off the dress and, just threw on my sweats and t-shirt, which is what I had on before. And I said to him later, I said, did you notice that I got into that dress? And he was like, no, what are you talking about? And so I just explained to him that I put on the dress and all this stuff.
By this time, of course, it's not the same,
it's not the same.
because
it
it only really works if I notice it and respond accordingly.
Right. So I put the dress back on so he could see, because he was excited about it, and he did what he should have done.
Yeah, I said, wow, look at that. That's the dress you said you couldn't get in anymore. That's great. You look great.
This is the point. If he had caught that bid when I threw it out,
yes,
that connection would have really,
it would have intensified.
It would have intensified,
yes.
which really will build that intimacy.
Yes,
because then that friendship is built, and it makes me say, oh, I want to show him that I'm happy about what happened. I want to show him that I really loved that connection. I want to show him physically. So the bids for connection is really deep, because we don't realize we're throwing out bids all the time.
Right.
So there are times when you might come home, or your spouse might come home, and they say,
sometimes that's a bid for connection.
One side is a bid for connection.
Yes.
How can you use that to then connect with your spouse? Hey, babe, what's going on?
I noticed you sighed just now. Was it a long day?
Yeah. How are you feeling? Or not saying anything at all. I'm just going to come and I'm going to, touch you.
Right.
Yes. Just to let you know that I hear you.
That builds the friendship.
It does.
Because honestly, if one of my boys that I know from back in the day was in town visiting and he came in the door sighing, I would probably say, what's wrong, man? You all right? We're friends. So I automatically do that.
Right.
With my wife, though, I'm tempted to maybe not recognize it or to ignore it, because I've had a long day myself and I don't want to get into a long conversation with her right now, or I don't want to hear her complain again, or whatever it is. So oftentimes we don't treat our spouse like we would our friend. And I think they can feel that. And what ends up happening is it builds negative sentiment override. And now we have a hard time getting through even positive situations. But if we would connect with each other more often, cultivating this friendship, what would happen is we'd be able to get through almost anything, because we have this positive sentiment override. It would take over even when something negative just happened.
Exactly.
So it's an extremely important thing that we need to be able to do.
It is. So we're going to do another little drill. Okay.
We're going to call it 5-minute focus.
5-minute focus. And we probably want to add a little time to this so that they can take a little break.
Okay, maybe we should. Yes.
We'll add a little time for you to take. So when it gets to 0, we won't start back right away.
We'll do another 5 minutes or so
to use the restroom or take a little break.
Yeah, okay. Drink some water, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do something called Mount Rushmore. Okay. So what you're going to do, you are going to, you want to explain? Go ahead and explain that.
Mount Rushmore is a location here in the United States where there are 4 faces of presidents that are etched into a mountain. And it's a very breathtaking sight. Well, when people say, this is my Mount Rushmore of whatever, it means here are the top 4 things that I like, basically is what you're saying. You're not necessarily ranking them in any particular order. You're not saying this is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. You're just saying these are 4 of the greatest whatever thing it is. What is your Mount Rushmore of blank?
Yeah, what is your Mount Rushmore of gospel singers? Or what is your Mount Rushmore of restaurants?
Yes.
Or you can choose anything you want as your top 4 Mount Rushmore. But this is a way we want you to connect with your spouse as you are becoming friends.
Yes.
This is a friendship. So you want to just talk about meaningless things sometimes.
Yes. That's the thing about a friendship.
Just to get to know each other.
My friends and I, we sit around and talk about stuff that doesn't really matter. We're not always talking about, who's going to pick up the groceries or who's getting the kids from school or whatever. Like that's what we normally talk about. But it's sometimes we should just talk about regular stuff that doesn't matter, because that's how you really build a friendship.
That's how you build, and that's how you connect with each other. You actually get to know each other even more.
Yes, you do.
When you talk about things like this, when you take the time. So again, we want you to pick the top 4, your top 4 of anything.
Yes, but we would say gospel artists.
Yes, maybe you could say gospel artists if that's your thing.
Right.
But it could be anything.
Right.
So let's do that now, and then we'll add 5 minutes so that you can take a restroom break or something like that.
So by the way, just so you know, when you're doing this top 4, you're not only saying what the top 4 are, you're also explaining why you think.
You're explaining why.
Yes, why is that your top 4? And in that, you're going to get to know each other a little bit better.
Right.
All right, so let's do that now.
Share your music.
Let's see.
the fact that you can't get about on your own, and you have to have someone staying with you all the time.
Okay.
All
So hopefully you're able to
right.
use the restroom and get some water.
Take a little time. All right.
Restroom, is that what you call it? Is it the loo? I don't. Anyway, so hopefully we're able to do all of that today. And so that Mount Rushmore, what we're hoping happened when you did that activity is that you got to know your spouse a little bit more.
And that maybe you laughed together about it.
Yeah.
You know?
And maybe you just found out more about who they are. And maybe it was fun to just have a conversation about regular stuff that had nothing to do with anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the groceries or who's picking up the kids from school or,
or work.
Work stuff. You know, you can actually talk about other things besides that. And if you're going to cultivate your friendship, that's the kind of stuff you have to learn how to do.
Okay, last point.
Last one. Then we'll go to some questions. We're not going to show the point first. We're just going to show the text, right? Here's the Bible text for the last point.
Okay, there are friends who destroy each other, but a real friend sticks closer than a brother.
Yes. So this text, if you notice, says there are friends in quotation marks who destroy each other. That means they're obviously not real friends, but real friends stick closer than a brother.
Yes.
So the thing we need if we're going to really have friendship, this last one, where did I put it? Here it is, babe.
It's protecting your friendship. Okay. There is no lasting friendship without trust.
Okay, so we started by initiating friendship and saying we can't have friendship without acceptance. Then we said, let's cultivate our friendship, and you can't really have a lasting friendship,
if you're not building it.
Exactly.
Okay.
You have to be working on it, building it all the time.
Right.
And then this last one, you got to protect your friendship once you have it.
So that it will last.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there's no lasting friendship without trust.
Exactly.
Trust is a very important aspect of this entire thing. And so trust can actually be something that you have, but then you lose. It could be something that you never fully had. And there are ways to get that. And we're going to talk about that just for a second.
You know, we're talking about, you know, there's a trust that comes with the relationship, right? But this other part of trusting can be trusting that you will not embarrass me in public. So this is okay. We should trust each other that you are going to be faithful to me.
Correct.
Okay. That's a trust that we hope automatically comes in a relationship. I trust that you're going to be committed to me, that you're going to be faithful to me, and it's going to be all about me and you.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. But there's another part of trust that comes when you're talking about trusting that your partner is going to do what they say they're going to do. Okay.
That's important.
We're talking about building friendship here.
Yes.
Okay. Trusting that when we go out, I am not going to have to worry about you making a joke in front of friends and embarrassing me. Okay.
Yes.
That's serious.
Yeah.
Okay. Trusting that when we get around family, you're not going to, as we say, you're not going to diss me. You know? Okay. Right. You're not going to leave me over on the side and just act like I'm not your husband or your wife. Okay. This type of trust is so important because it helps you, if you can trust in these areas, it helps you to be confident in your spouse. Okay. Confident that your spouse is not going to hurt you on purpose.
Right.
Okay. That your spouse is going to have your heart and not crush it in these types of situations.
Yes.
You know, because there can be a lot of conflict that comes from you saying you're going to do something and then you don't do it. And every time you say you're going to do something, in the back of my mind, I'm like, he never follows through. I really don't trust him. So I can't help but say, did you do that? And then there's why are you asking? I said I was going to do it. Well, you know, the last time you said you're going to do something, you didn't do it. So do you see how this now turns into a huge conflict?
Yes. Because
that trust was not built.
Yes. But we want to trust that we will take care of each other's hearts.
Yes.
So trusting is a huge part of protecting the friendship.
Yes.
Because once you've established it, once you are cultivating it and all of that, you can lose some real points in the area of friendship if you start distrusting your spouse.
You really can.
Now, this happened to you, I think, when you were in college. There was a friend you had that misplaced your trust.
So this is just a friend. This is not marriage, but we're talking about friendship here.
Right.
Okay. So me and a friend, we were talking very close. We had been friends since kindergarten, and we had gone all through school together. And now we were at Oakwood University together. And I had shared something with her that was very personal, and that I specifically asked her not to share with anyone else. Okay. So after a couple weeks of her having this, she decided to share it with someone else. And that person let me know that she shared it. Okay, we'll make a long story short. All right. And when I found out, I approached her about it. And I said, I just want you to know that now I know where we stand. Okay.
I know where our friendship actually is.
I know our friendship actually. I did not cut her off.
Right.
I did not say we're not friends anymore. I just knew she was going to be in a different friend zone. That I knew this was not going to be a friend that I could come to about personal things to share with. I knew that friend was not the one for that anymore.
She was a very close and deep friend that you knew for years, that you trusted would definitely keep your secrets. And now all of a sudden, because she breached that trust, you realized she's not really the close friend that I thought she was, and maybe I can't trust her anymore. And that changed the dynamic of your friendship tremendously.
Oh, it did. And she was so hurt. She was so hurt because it was like, I didn't mean to do that. You know, I know I said it, but I'm sorry. I know you told me not to, whatever. So and that friendship did build back.
Yes.
She did regain, you know,
it took a long time.
It took a long time though.
Yes.
And it still's not all the way back the way it was. Because now my guard is up.
That was like 20 something years ago.
and even though our friendship is fine, it's not where it was in the beginning or in the middle, you know? So do you really want that to happen in your marriage where, you know, you thought you could trust your spouse in these areas and then they show that they're not able to be trusted. So then you begin to question, you then say, is our relationship more like this than that? And so that begins to actually take away from that friendship. And then you begin to doubt.
Yeah. And so the reality is, if you're going to protect the friendship, now that you have it, you got to maintain trust.
Exactly.
That's got to be throughout.
Got to be throughout your
relationship. And I think you can do it. This will keep you from going behind me and checking to see if I did something. This kind of trust will. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If I do something to break or breach that trust, especially in the area of infidelity, because by the way, you can be unfaithful to your spouse without physically, without sleeping with someone else. You know, you know what I'm trying to say?
Or just physically doing something.
Right. You can do this by having an emotional affair or any of those kinds of things. That is going to tear down your relationship faster than anything else.
That's so hard to build back up.
It is hard, but it's possible.
It is possible.
But it's hard to do.
And the Lord has to be all up in it.
Oh, there's no question.
Well, the Lord has to be up in it anyway.
That's right.
Because I don't think that I could even accept properly without the Lord.
Exactly. That's exactly
without me praying through that.
That's exactly
right. But I just want to say the thing about trust, for men especially, they want to be able to feel like you can trust them to do things. You can trust their judgment. You trust their ability. And when we show that we don't by questioning every little thing, I'm talking to the ladies because this is just true, you know, whether we like it or not. It is true that men need us to trust that they can do it. And if we show them that we don't, it can actually begin to tear them down. And it will not just cause the friendship to break down, but also the relationship period.
That's true. We actually became much better friends when you began to say or to show and demonstrate that you trust my judgment. When I made a decision or when I made a suggestion, you didn't always question it. There were ways in which I became much closer to you as a friend because of that. It felt like you trusted me as a person.
Yes, because we had a time where I didn't know that I didn't trust that, but I was acting like I did, I guess, but I was acting like I didn't, but in my heart, I did.
Right. Yes. But by questioning everything, it made me feel like you didn't trust me.
And him not able to do something without me wondering, okay, well, why are you doing that? Or what does that mean? You know, sometimes I just needed to let go and say, you know what? You got this. I'm going to trust. And if there's a mistake that's made, then you just support them in coming out of that mistake.
That's right.
But this is how you build trust. This is how you can build that friendship.
And for you guys, I think there are aspects that we can do better as husbands with trusting our wives. And this is the thing that I've done, and I think that's helped us a lot. I have trusted in my wife's sixth sense. My wife has the ability to feel things and to just know stuff and to have an idea that this might not work, or especially when it came to things dealing with our children or other people or other women. There would sometimes be other women who might act a certain way around me, and April would say, watch out for that one. There's something going on there. And I used to say, what are you talking about? There's nothing here. What do you mean? And then later on, I would find out, wow, that person, I think, actually would be inappropriate if given the chance. April already saw that. Right. See what I'm saying? Trusting that ability to see that and to know that actually deepened our friendship. She actually felt like I saw her in a different way when I was doing that. So that's a way of protecting your friendship.
It is.
All right. So those are the three things. First one, initiate your friendship. There is no true friendship without acceptance. So you got to make sure that you have that. Number two, cultivate your friendship. There is no meaningful friendship without connection. Got to connect with your spouse. And then number three, you got to protect it. There is no lasting friendship without trust. These are ways that we can actually help to create in our relationship a friendship that will actually deepen our intimacy and fan the flames of desire. You don't even realize those things are connected, but they are.
All this stuff builds intimacy.
No question about it. So anyway, we want to take some questions now. I guess we'll turn it over to Nosy. And I think there were some direct questions, but others that you were fielding as well. So we'll turn things over to you now.
Yeah, sure. So just going back into the chat, you were talking about bidding, and there's a gentleman who wants to know that sometimes women bid in different ways that men tend to miss. So what can a man do? You know what we're like as women, we kind of just, we send lots of kind of, subliminal messaging that they don't get. So
tell it, sister, tell it now. Tell it, sister.
So how can a man connect with a woman? How do they do that? How do they not miss the bid so they don't upset their woman?
Excellent. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, I want you to notice that in the situation where I missed April's bid for connection earlier, she was in the dress. She didn't want to say anything. She wanted me to notice on my own and to be able to make a comment positively. And let me just point out for a second why she does this. This is not because she wants to play games. In fact, I do it too sometimes, but here's why we do it. We hint at things instead of coming out and saying it, because if you respond naturally, organically, because you noticed it, I can trust that your response was from your heart and not a manufactured response because you told me, hey, I want to connect with you. So that's one of the reasons why it's important. So don't get upset that your wife or your husband does this. They're not playing games. They want to find a way to be able to have this connection without telling you, hey, I want to connect, because they want it to feel like this was organic. It came up naturally. Okay, so how do you do that? The first thing is, notice after I missed the bid for connection, April showed me that she was trying to bid for connection in that situation, which means now I can file it away in my mind and say, the next time something like that happens, I'm going to be ready. In fact, I was excited after that to say, oh man, okay, that's what she was doing. Now I need to know and recognize that that's going to be happening. So what you have to do is literally become a student of your spouse. You're studying them. You're watching stuff. You're trying to find ways, because listen, this is going to deepen your intimacy. This is going to have a payoff for you in the end. And I'm talking, men, now about the physical thing that happens in the bedroom. There is that thing that happens, and that's a wonderful reward that comes at the end. So even if you keep that in the back of your mind as your motivating factor, that's okay. Become a student of your spouse. Watch her. Look for stuff. Sometimes ask when she's upset with you and you notice it. Say, hey, did I miss something earlier? Were you trying to connect? Did I miss that? And let her explain to you what it was that you missed, and then file it away. Listen, I told somebody this recently. It's actually a good thing. Sometimes you might want to keep a journal, and you don't have to keep it on a paper and pen. You don't have to do it that way. You could keep it in your phone if you want. You might have notes in your phone that you can keep. You can actually type something out real quick and say, here is a bid for connection that I missed the last time, and consult it. Take notes. And notice patterns.
Find out how your spouse throws those bids out.
Yes.
Because it's going to be the same type of thing every time. Really, it's not it's not so many things that you're like, oh man, I can't tell. After you really study that, you're able to see, okay, so when she huffs, I know what she means by that.
Exactly.
And instead of getting irritated by the huff, because that can
Yes.
happen sometimes. We're like,
Yes.
oh, brother, here she is again,
Right.
complaining about the fact that she's tired.
Right.
Because women, and tell me if I'm wrong, we are always tired when we're working and raising children.
Yes, exactly.
And instead you react to that in a positive way,
Mhm.
then, you know, that can just continue to grow and happen.
That kind of goes with acceptance too, though, April.
It does.
Because if my wife always responds in a certain way about stuff, if I'm deciding that I'm going to accept her, then I actually put myself in a position where now being a student of hers doesn't necessarily become a hardship. This is part of what I'm doing to get to know my wife so I can accept her better.
Right.
And one of the things I want to accept is I want to accept the way that she wants to connect with me, the way that she decides to do that. She's not going to come out and say it every time because she wants it to be organic, and that's okay. I'm going to study it and notice, okay, I know what that is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we do that. We like doing this. This is something that we enjoy in other areas of life. Let's start enjoying it in our marriage too.
Right. I agree.
Anyway, I hope that answers the question.
That's a really good answer. Is there anything that the woman can do as well? Like, is there any advice for the woman? Because, you know, sometimes we are a little bit, you know, we say one thing and we don't kind of mean it. Is there something that we can do as women as well to make that process a little bit easier?
I think so. I think you can meet your man halfway, sort of move towards him, so that maybe instead of being so abstract, you can try to be a little bit more literal. I think there are ways to offer a bid for connection that does not come out and say it, so that way you can still get the organic response that you want. But where you're not necessarily being quite as cryptic as you normally are, you know? Try to be a little bit more literal so that your husband can actually pick up on it a little bit.
So I
easier.
could have said, hey, babe, what do you think about, how do I look in this dress? I could have said that. I could have just come out and said, and that's still a bid, because he needs to then recognize she wants me to notice that she's in a dress that she couldn't wear before.
That's where the connection was.
See, that's where the connection was.
This is what, because April asked me every day, how do I look in this? Because she wants to make sure before she goes out to the world that what she's wearing looks good, that she looks good in it. So that's a normal thing. But what she was trying to do, the very specific thing she wanted in that case was she wanted me to notice that because of her weight loss, she got back into a dress that she couldn't fit previously. That's what she wanted. So even by asking, how do I look? She's still able to get organically for me to notice, hey, isn't that the dress you couldn't wear 3 months ago?
Right.
That's what she really wanted.
Right.
So that's coming a little bit. She was just standing there, you know, and I missed it. But maybe she could have said, hey, what do you think?
Right. And that's okay. That's okay to say, you know what, instead of going, oh, and that's it, you can say, I'm really tired today, babe.
Right.
And then
I had a really long day.
I had a really long day. There's a bid. Now, how are you going to respond to that is what really makes it connect.
Exactly.
Are you going to say, oh, you're always tired?
Right.
You know, this is a regular thing.
When are you not tired?
Okay, that could be the response.
And that feels like rejection.
That feels like rejection.
Yes.
It does.
Right.
Or that you don't care.
Right.
Or it could be, I see you.
Yes.
Because feeling seen is so important. I see you, babe. You know what? I got the kids tonight.
Right.
Go upstairs and have a bath.
Yes.
You know, whatever. You know, that, and it doesn't have to necessarily be every time, because there may be times where you can't do that. But what you can say is, I'm so sorry you're tired. Let's try to get in early tonight. You know, there are some ways, there are other ways to show it where you don't have to really put forth a whole lot of effort.
It's not always a lot of effort.
You know, but really, I think we have to open our eyes and be more observant towards one another. You know, sometimes we're so stuck on seeing and doing all these other things in life that we don't even have our eyes on our spouse anymore.
And to really
because
notice
of the distractions,
Yes.
because of the distraction. But you have to just be purposeful in that.
Yes, I agree. There was one more thing I wanted to say to that, but I can't. Oh, I know what it is. So men, I'll just take me as an example. So if April huffs, and let's say I've had a long day, in that moment, my temptation is, I ask myself a question. Am I going to recognize that she just huffed, or am I going to ignore it? And what's going on in my head is, I had a long day. I don't necessarily feel like having a 20-minute conversation about what happened at her job, but that's not the only thing that she might want right there. As she just said, what if I were to suggest that she just goes upstairs? She may not want to talk to me at all. She may just want to not have to do the list of things she normally has to do when she comes home.
Right.
Because the moment she walks through that door, now she's got to worry about what's happening for dinner. She's worrying about whether or not the kids finish their homework today. She's looking at the dishes. There's a whole list of things. If I were to say to her in that moment, oh, it sounds like you had a long day. Hey, put your bag down, take your shoes off, go upstairs, get in the bed. Now, I gave her the bid for connection. I showed her that I noticed her. I actually helped out a little bit by lightening her load. And I didn't have to sit there and listen to a 30-minute conversation because I wasn't really ready to do that. So I don't have to necessarily ignore her in order to not, in order to get something I didn't want at that moment. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Anyway,
or shut the person down.
Exactly right. Because what happens in that situation, if I don't see her, if I don't respond to her bid for connection, she ends up feeling like rejected, and I don't want her to feel that way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway.
Hope that answered the question.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I've got another question. This is actually something that comes up quite a lot. So you talked about, leaving and cleaving to your wife, but what do you do if your spouse has not emotionally left his mother and extended family, although you're married? How do you deal with this? So, he's still there, still waiting for them to approve your family decisions. What do you do? How do you handle it?
That's a really tough one.
It is tough. That is tough.
So we find this a lot. We see this a lot. And what we notice is people that have very strong familial ties, very strong relationship with their families, oftentimes struggle in this area. Right. The first thing I would say is that you have to start seeing a particular Bible text differently. There is a Bible text where Jesus actually says, what God has put together, let no man separate. I think you know that text. We say that at the end of a wedding, just before, like after the vows have been taken, just before the kiss, we say, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. But that literally means what God joined together, let no man separate. So we have to realize first and foremost that there is a mandate that happens. It comes from God. It's a command that no one should be coming between us once we decide that we're going to be unified in marriage.
Right.
So I don't think we take that seriously enough. We don't see that as a command. That's a command from the Lord saying, you guys are married now. It's time to leave in order to cleave. Yeah. So we have to take that more seriously. It's not just some little thing that, oh, you'll have a good marriage or a better marriage if you do this. No, your marriage cannot survive. It cannot succeed. You really have not adhered to your spouse if you're still attached to your previous family. It's not possible.
Right.
So we have to be more militant about that. We have to be more serious about it. The second thing, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't want you to forget.
Go ahead. I won't forget.
Is that it should be where you and your spouse are now, it's like you guys are a team.
Yes.
You're together. I don't want to say against the world, but in a way.
Yeah.
It's you guys are not in a negative way,
right.
But you are now here establishing your own thing. So it's nothing wrong with having outside families and people that you trust and that you look up to for wisdom and even advice. But it has to be that you both agree to that and that there is no, we talk about something here and then you go back to mom and your whole mind changes. And
now you come back and say, well, I don't think we should do that anymore. That's not really fair. And honestly, there's really nothing worse than that.
Right.
There's nothing worse than the two of us deciding we're going to do something. And then one of us goes back to our father, our mother, whoever it is. And now that person can change our mind about something we already decided together.
This is us.
This is about our thing, you know? And again, it's okay for us to get advice. That's fine. But let's get it together and let's make a decision about that as opposed to me going back and allowing somebody else to change everything. I'm not married to them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And I like what George and Neva just said just now, if I'm pronouncing your name right. I like that. We often speak about this text when it comes to infidelity only.
Correct.
But it's not as anybody.
That's exactly right.
Your mama, your daddy, your uncle, grandma.
That's right. Sometimes your friends.
Sometimes your friends.
That's exactly right.
And causing you to have, now you have issues in your marriage. You're now separating. You're now turning away from each other because of this other person. That is what the text is talking about.
Exactly right.
I mean, it's talking about infidelity as well, but it's talking about that also.
Yes. So if we are not intent on creating our own new family, this really isn't going to work. We have to do
There's going to always be issues.
Exactly. So April has this illustration that she uses. She says, starting a new family is like having a blank canvas and you have every single paint color available, and the two of you just start painting whatever you want to paint. Now, it turns out that there are some colors and some paint brushes and some shapes that you had in your childhood that you may decide together, we like this, we like that, we're going to bring that into this.
Key is together.
That's the point.
Decide together.
Yes.
Right.
But it's not fair for me to decide without really deciding that I'm just going to keep a bunch of stuff from my childhood that's going to roll over into this new situation. That's not creating your own new family. That's not leaving.
Right. And that's not setting proper boundaries.
Correct.
For your own relationship.
Exactly right.
There's got to be boundaries there.
Yeah.
There's only a certain limit that people can come to, and they need to know that this is where it stops. But of course, you set those boundaries in a positive way.
Yes.
But some people may not react to them positively. And you have to be okay with that. And I think a lot of us, the reason why we don't really let go and leave all the way is because we're afraid of how the family is going to respond. How they're going to respond to us actually leaving, because there's such a tight knit there that it's hard to let that go and to show them, because, you know, a lot of people might think when you do that, when you set those boundaries, I'm cutting you off.
Right. That's not what's happening.
But that's not what's happening.
It doesn't have to be that.
No, it doesn't.
Our hearts are big enough to be able to love our spouses as well as our family members. We can do that.
Yes.
We just need them to know that our spouse now takes first place and the two of us together are making decisions about things. We may come to you sometimes for advice and we may take it.
We're deciding on that together. Again,
we're going to decide in the end what our things are going to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
But sharing with your spouse, you know, I feel like, you know, you are not allowing yourself to be fully connected to me.
Right. We have to say that.
Have you shared that? Have you had that deep conversation to say, without it being a huge argument, we're talking about talking about this in a different setting than you reacting, than you reacting to what happened.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So have this conversation with your spouse. Sounds like the person that asked is a wife and is talking about their husband sort of being still connected with the mother. Have the conversation not from a reactionary standpoint, like April said, but also don't make it about the mother. Make it about the two of you. I feel that there's something keeping us from really being able to be as close as we should be. And I feel like there are times when, in fact, your mother and maybe others get between us. And I feel that in order for us to really have what God wants us to have, no one should come between us. That's what the text says.
Yeah. And yes, we know that cultural things can have to do with it. But again, that's something too. You can't even let your cultural differences come and split your marriage up. You cannot do that.
Right.
So it has to be where you have to say, I know that in my culture, we have the parents, I don't know, let's just say, come live with you at a certain point, which is fine if you both agree on that.
That's right.
But if that's not something that you want as a couple, you might have to break that cultural tradition.
Nothing should supersede
for your family. No.
Yeah.
Because the Bible says we should not have something come in and separate us.
Yes.
Okay.
So what God has joined together, let you substitute the word nothing. Let nothing separate.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a human being. It could be some other thing. It could be your job that's getting in the way.
That's true.
It could be a family member. Right. It could be something else. It could be your dreams and aspirations, whatever. But the Bible is saying nothing should be able to get in between that because God has joined it together.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Anyway.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that answers it pretty well. Just a reminder, if you've got questions, please pop them in the chat or you can send them to me directly and then we can ask them if you want it to be asked anonymously. And I know that John and April have a couple of questions, but just one more. What are the practical steps people can take to help to rebuild trust when it has been broken?
Yeah.
Well, I say one thing you have to do is to be transparent and open. You know, if I feel like you're still hiding something, if I feel like you are not forthcoming or just showing your full self, then I will put in my mind, I will constantly have doubts that I can trust you. And I'm just going to give some examples. Like, sometimes people will have their phone and there's a password, and not saying that you have to give the password to your spouse or anything, but if you're trying to regain trust, here's my password.
Right.
My phone, it laying around anywhere.
Yep.
I'm not taking my phone and hiding it, making sure it's in my pocket and with me all the time, just in case you're looking and you find something. No, here's my password. Here's my email password. Here's I don't want you to feel like I'm hiding anything from you. That's if you really want to regain that trust.
That's if you really.
That's a start.
That's exactly
right.
That's
a start.
So let's just say the trust was lost because of infidelity.
Right.
That's the normal conversation, right? So I think April, what she says is the first thing is the most important thing. In order to reestablish trust, if I'm the one who breached the trust and April's the one whose trust I'm trying to regain, what I have to start by doing is saying, I'm an open book. There's nothing more that I have to hide, which by the way, just so you know, revealing things, having this openness that actually causes the whatever the thing is that I'm tempted to do, it loses its power. It loses its power the moment I stop keeping it a secret.
True.
So that's the first thing you have to do. So like April said, it may mean something like, okay, you have my password. Here's your fingerprint. Put your fingerprint in my phone.
Right.
No matter what, you don't have to worry. I'm not going to be on there texting somebody else or something like that.
Here, those numbers that I had before, I'm deleting them all in front of you.
Exactly.
I want you to see that.
Yes, that's very important. Number two, you have to be patient. The person who is the one who breached the trust cannot be impatient. You can never say, it's been a year already.
Exactly.
You don't trust me yet?
Right.
No, that cannot be your attitude. However long it takes is how long it takes.
Yep.
I don't know how long it's going to take, but you have to find ways to make sure that you are not impatient with your spouse if you really want to get their trust back. If you're being legitimate, you're not going to have that problem. Okay, it's gonna be something where you're really serious about it. You're going to make sure that you are giving them as much time as they need to be able to get over it. Now, one more thing, I would say, input into your relationship a new level of accountability. Yes. That's important.
Yes.
Now, let me tell you how you do this. Let's just say that I have an issue with pornography. Okay. By the way, just for the record, that is another form of infidelity.
Yes, it is.
I need you to know that.
Yep. Okay.
Let's just say I have a problem with pornography and I'm struggling with it. And something happens and my wife finds out. Either I admit it to her or she catches me or something like that. Now she knows. First thing I'm doing is she knows my password on my phone so that I can't get on my phone and be looking at pornography, or she has the password for my laptop, all of that. Very important. I'm building trust now. I'm giving her as long as she needs. I'm being patient. Well, here's the accountability part. If I'm not with her, let's just say I'm going on a trip and I'm going out of town, okay? And I'm gonna be gone from her for 3 days. I'm gonna have my laptop with me, okay? This is a time that I know that I might be tempted to go back to watching pornography. So what I do to build an accountability is I say, April, here I am, I'm going to go on this trip. When I'm gone, I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to get on pornography. I'm going to tell her this up front. And then I'm going to say, you have permission to ask me whether or not I was faithful to you while I was gone. You can ask me, were you faithful with your eyes while you were gone? Now, I don't want to lie to my wife. I don't want to tell her an untruth when I get back. So I am going to, every time I'm tempted to open my laptop late at night while I'm in that hotel room by myself away from her, every time I'm tempted, I say to myself, you know what? When I get back home, she's going to ask me whether or not I was faithful to her.
Right.
And I want to make sure that I can tell the truth. And so that's going to help me. It's going to be an extra layer of accountability to help me through so that I don't have any problems. And I'm going to get back and I'm going to be proud to tell her when she asks me, nope, I didn't mess up. I was faithful to you while I was gone. I did not, I wasn't even tempted. I might even say, you know what, I was tempted, but I remembered that when I came home, I was going to have to tell you this and I didn't want to lie. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to keep faithful. Those are things you have to do to make sure. So be an open book, be patient, and then accountable. Just have accountability. Build that into your relationship. I think that will help you with rebuilding trust. It's going to take a long time.
It does take a while though, but being patient is a part of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's another follow-on to that actually. So if your spouse has been caught in infidelity, is divorce ever an option? Is divorce an option? And I know divorce is a pretty big topic in itself, to be honest, but it is.
At
what point we look at that, going down that route, if ever?
Yeah. So I need you to know that when God created marriage in the first place, he never meant for divorce to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was not part of his original plan.
Right.
But he does make a provision in his permissive will. It's biblical. There are two ways to get out of a marriage: death or infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, that's part of God's permissive will to say that if your spouse has been unfaithful, that you can divorce that person. I don't think that's the ideal. I think the ideal would be that God wants us to be able to work through these things and to find ways through him to be able to make the marriage still work. But
of course,
he understands.
And both parties have to be willing to work at it,
exactly,
to make it work.
Exactly.
So if one is not really willing after infidelity has taken place, that it's going to be hard to have one person working on the marriage and the other one not.
Yeah. So that is a biblical provision that is there that says when infidelity takes place, that you are allowed to end the marriage because I can no longer move forward with you in trust.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something else that's part of that, which we're not really talking about in this thing. And that is, there is a relationship between the spiritual and the physical. So that when I physically join myself to another woman, what ends up happening is the Bible says I am one with her in body because this is 1 Corinthians 6, I think.
Okay.
Don't you know that when you join yourself to a prostitute, you are one with her in body? I believe that's 1 Corinthians 6.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, because the Bible says the two shall become one flesh. So that there is actually a relationship between the physical and the spiritual that makes it so hard. I think this is the reason why Jesus makes that provision for divorce. Because the moment I join myself physically to someone else, I'm actually joining with them spiritually too. Right. I'm one with them.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it hard. So the oneness that we are pledging to each other is supposed to be kept for one another. And so I do think it's possible to have a happy marriage where trust can be restored again, even after infidelity. I think God has the power to bring us through that.
Definitely.
But he also knows that in our human sinfulness and weakness, that is something that might be difficult to get over ever. And so he says, that's the one time that I say, besides death, that you can get out of marriage.
So I've just one more question before you go to the ones that you've got. What do you do when your spouse is not necessarily as godly as you are, and maybe they're taking drugs? So you've kind of already got that divide where, you're not quite seeing eye to eye in that respect.
Yeah, there are a couple of Bible texts that are important here. You know the text about not being unequally yoked with unbelievers. Obviously, an unbeliever is someone who does not believe in God, and you would be a believer if you do believe in God. And so there's this kind of idea that we should be sort of united in this spiritual idea about that there is a creator, and that we are going to align our lives according to what he wants us to do. Right. There's another text in Amos 3:3 that says, can two walk together unless they be agreed? So there's this idea that if we're going to move together in this relationship, it's important for us to be on the same page. Now, the complication is that you've already gotten married. You have decided to marry this person, and you have said, I'm going to be with this same person until death do us part. You pledged that whether the person is the same tomorrow as they are today or not, that you're going to stay together. And so it's going to take a lot of prayer. It's going to take a lot of fasting. I believe we can actually get on our faces, on our knees, and pray for our spouse and ask God to help them with their terrible habit of taking drugs. And who knows what that does to the relationship. Maybe there's physical and emotional abuse that comes in afterwards because they're not the same person because of that. There are all kinds of things like that you can do. But of course, it's going to be very difficult, I believe.
Yeah, and it may be cliche to say, pray about it.
Yeah, but you have to.
That is so powerful. To take your spouse to the Lord on your face.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when you have to get down and just lay out.
That's right.
Every day, praying for your spouse. And then I would say being patient with them.
Yeah.
Because everybody's on their own spiritual journey.
Yes.
Now, of course, if they're doing things like taking drugs, that is something that can affect you both.
That's right.
So
it's much more harmful. That's very hard to see. Yeah.
And, trying to find ways to encourage them to get out of that would be, the best thing to do.
Yes.
But
interventions with friends and family,
yes.
Taking them to rehab.
Yes. Or
there are other things like that actually, and maybe you've done those things already.
Right. Or trying to bring a therapist or pastor in to
Yes.
try to show them the right way
Yeah.
without being judgmental.
Yes.
Because when we begin to be critical and judgmental, it actually turns the person away, and it makes them not want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen this with teenagers. When you tell them don't do something, they like, okay, and you do it in a critical, judgmental way.
They find a way to do it now.
But when you're not judgmental or critical, then they feel loved. So it's doing it in love and having patience, because everybody's on their own walk with Christ. And so we can't be the Holy Spirit.
The other thing is we all have issues. And so there's always going to be something that each of us has to look past in our spouse in order to really love them. Every one of us has it. The difference is that sometimes the thing that I have as my issue might be more socially acceptable than the thing that you have. And so social acceptability doesn't necessarily make mine better than yours. It's still sin. It's still something that God hates and God wants to change. And so even though your spouse has a drug habit and my issue may not be as bad because it's kind of sanitized and accepted in church, it's just as wrong. And in order for them to accept me, they've got to look past that, and we've got to pray through it together. So sometimes understanding that we have our own thing as well will help us to be even more loving to our spouse in that situation.
Right.
But we have to be prayerful.
But if your spouse doesn't want to change and doesn't want to stop taking drugs and doesn't like that you're even suggesting that, that's a whole nother level.
That's a whole nother problem.
That's true. And that's where prayer, intervention, having support from others will be where you probably would need to start there.
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
That's a tough one though.
That is tough.
Did you have some questions? I do have another one, but did you have some direct questions?
We had one question on here that we wanted to answer dealing with the acceptance thing. Basically, this person asked that when we're accepting a person, sometimes, which he believes is biblical, however, he thinks it could be purposely misapplied. So one example would be, what if someone in the family is not good with money and that person is the one that is in charge of the money for the home? Can that person just say, that's who I am, and never change? And then the question is, can you clearly spell out what we should be focusing on when we talk about not changing our spouse? Now, April actually came to this a little bit by saying that we're not supposed to accept bad behavior, but we should accept who the person is.
And there's a thin, like we said, there's a thin line with that, because sometimes we can think our behavior is who we really are when it's really not.
Right.
It's just what we've been doing for so long that we think it's who we are.
Exactly. Yeah.
When really it could just be a bad behavior that really needs to
be looked at,
and worked on.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. I believe we're using a different illustration now. We talked earlier about how God made April introvert and made me an extrovert. He's not going to change that. Well, I'll just change it a little bit. Let's just say that God made us all from certain material. Okay. Let's say I'm made from gold and April is made from platinum. All right. That's the part God did on purpose. Now, here's what God will do. God will shape and mold. He will chisel, he'll burn away, he'll do different things like that to make me into the best piece of gold that he wants. What he won't do is change me from gold to silver. He's not going to do that because he made me gold on purpose. He is not going to change April from platinum to, copper. He's not going to do that, because the material he decided to make her with is what he did on purpose. What he will do is he'll chisel, he'll polish, he'll cut away, he'll do all of those things. That's basically God changing our behavior. He's helping us to be the best piece of silver, or you're platinum, right? The best piece of platinum and the best piece of gold that he can make us into. So I believe with the illustration you just gave that God might help you to be better with your money management.
Right.
Even
and it
though
could be through your spouse who might be better at it.
That's true. It's possible you shouldn't be the one who's over the money in the family.
True.
Maybe the spouse
if you're not
should
the best at it. But if you, let's say you're not as organized,
right? Can
you learn some organizational skills so that you're better at it?
Absolutely.
Yes. But will you be where a 100% organized person is?
Probably not.
Just
No.
like I'll never be a full extrovert,
Right.
but I have grown where now I don't get as much anxiety when I'm in a big crowd.
Right.
I can now talk to people and not feel awkward.
Yes.
But before, when I was younger, that was hard for me.
Yes.
I had, but because we're growing, and actually being with an extrovert has helped me with that. The thing that really helped was that he did not judge me.
Mm-hmm.
Or guys, judging and criticizing your spouse is the worst thing to do.
It is. It's so
there
bad.
are ways that you can express to your spouse that you don't think they're good with managing money. But if you are saying it in a judgmental, critical, or superior way, like I'm better than you, they won't be able to even open themselves up for change or growth, because it's almost like telling a child negative things about themselves, telling them they're bad. They're always going to act that way because you told them that they were. But when you begin to say, you can do it.
Yes.
I believe that you can. Let's work together. Let's train. Let's do a financial management class together. Then that begins to build up that confidence and helps the person say, you know what, maybe I can do better with finances, rather than saying I can't do it. I'm not good.
Right.
Well, maybe that's continuing to be put in his mind or her mind because the spouse keeps saying,
right.
Why are you always messing up the money? Why is the account empty again? Why are you why do you always do this?
Right.
You know, those are ways that we believe can build so that you can have positive change. So it's not about changing the core person.
Yes.
But can we change behavior? Can we change habits? Can we get better?
Yes. And
yes, we can. We should always be trying to get
all
better.
of that. So we don't want to give you the impression that this is an excuse to be able to say to your spouse all the time, that's just who I am.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll give you I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I am a very sarcastic person. I am from the Northeast. I'm from New York City, and we tend to be blunt and also sarcastic. Now, April likes my sarcasm in normal situations because it's funny. But when we're in an argument or some kind of a disagreement, she really doesn't like it then, and she doesn't feel like it has any place in the argument. And I actually agree with her. I think sarcasm makes it worse. So we've come to that agreement now. So what I used to do when I would get sarcastic in an argument, she'd say, why do you have to do that? That's just who I am. You have to accept that. Well, the reality is I am a sarcastic guy, but that's not the best behavior under the circumstances. And what I need to be doing is putting in practice some areas of self-control. Hello, I'm an adult.
Self-control.
I can control myself.
That's a big one.
I need to put some areas of self-control in place, and I need to be prayerful and ask God, Lord, when I'm in these situations with April, I already know that when I'm sarcastic, it makes it worse. Help me not to do that, please. And God will do it.
Yeah, he will.
Stop hiding behind that's who I am.
And if you want to do that, if that is your desire, if you are wanting to make that change, I believe it can be made if you actually you're praying about it and you're trying, and you're not going to be perfect. You'll make mistakes because there are times when
I still do it sometimes. Right.
but
because it's so much.
Has he improved so much?
Yes. I'm not perfect,
much,
but I've gotten better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got another question. And this is around abuse, which is, quite a sensitive topic. So, when we talk about physical abuse or even emotional abuse, like where do we draw the line? Is there, at what point can you kind of turn around and walk away? Should you walk away? Is it different if it's physical or emotional abuse?
So here's the thing. We believe if you're in a physically abusive situation that you should get to a place of safety.
Yes.
You may actually need to leave physically the same place that the abuser is in, okay? And we think that's the most important thing to do. We actually believe that separation is biblical. That there are times when separating from your spouse without divorcing them, sometimes the appropriate thing to do, and we would say mostly in physically abusive situations, that's the case. Now, the thing about abuse is a person who continues to allow their person to abuse them oftentimes is in a situation where mentally it's difficult to break away. Sometimes that's hard. And so we know this is a tough thing. It's not an easy decision,
right?
But we do actually encourage this and think it's important to do.
And I would even add that to emotional abuse?
I think so.
I think
I would be more long suffering and maybe stick it out with a face-to-face type situation longer with emotional and physical. Maybe I would allow it to happen a little bit longer in that case, but maybe not. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think you should, but I think that leaving and getting away may bring about a kind of like a light to say, hold on, oh, I'm about to lose him or her or whatever the situation is. It may bring out the desire to want to change or to want help.
I actually think
it kind of is a wake up call.
I actually think that staying in a situation like that communicates the opposite of what April just said, which is this is okay behavior. Even if I say I don't like it, I don't want it to happen. Sometimes the only thing that helps a person is for you to say, you know what? I'm removing myself from this situation. I'm getting out of here. And that person will say, wait a minute, I could actually lose my spouse if I keep doing this. I need to get this together. I don't want to lose my family. I don't want to lose my spouse. I need to make this right. Sometimes that's a wake-up call that a person actually needs in that situation.
And again, we go back to intervention as well. Bringing someone in that can maybe turn that light on to say, oh, wow, this is actually affecting my wife more than I thought, or my husband. Maybe that would be a way to try to solve that. And someone said here, I have to respond to this. What do you say to the husband who says the Bible says I am the head of the house? Well, first of all, that husband is
how can we balance this is a loving sharing relationship?
Well,
we actually have a whole thing on this.
We have a whole thing on this. Oh my goodness. That's why I had to just
Ephesians 5.
That is misinterpreted.
It is.
And I'm gonna just say we can't go into a whole new session a workshop or whatever.
We only have 55 more minutes with them total, and we have a whole other thing to do.
So what I will say this, when the Bible is talking about the husband is the head of the home, I'm about to shock you right now.
He says the head of the wife is what he says.
Head of the wife.
Thank you.
I'm about to shock you right now.
Yeah.
That is actually heading in all good things.
Yes. You're the leader in all good things.
You're the leader in giving up.
How do we know that? Because it says right after that, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church.
So
the savior of the body, right?
What did Christ do as the head of the church?
Well, we can find out a little bit in what it says to me when it says husbands love your wives. Husbands love your wives like Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So what you notice Ephesians 5 is about, it's about self-sacrificial love. It's not about who's the boss.
Right.
If we had time, we'd go through that. We don't have time today. That's a whole other thing. But when you look at Ephesians 5, that whole thing, it's not about who has the last word. It's not about who's the boss, right? Who gets to break the tie. It's not about me putting my hand down and saying, I'm the head of the house. And the reason I know is because Christ is the example. And the entire time that Jesus was on earth, his disciples were trying to get him to do things by force. And Jesus kept saying, no, that's not how I do things. He said, the rulers and the leaders lord it over them, but not so among you. We don't do that. So anybody that wants to be first has to be last. If you want to be someone's leader, you got to be their slave. That's what he says. So the biblical idea of spiritual headship is about self-sacrifice, not about who's in charge.
And if you think about it, when Jesus was on this earth, all he did was care for, and he fought for injustice.
Right.
So if you are, what am I saying? Did I say he fought?
You said that right? He fought for injustice.
Yes. He did not like injustice. That's what I want to say. He fought against injustice. He fought against injustice. That's what I meant to say. I knew I said that wrong. He fought against injustice.
Yes.
So if that's the case, there should be nothing in your home that is injustice.
Exactly. If you're being physically abused,
if you're talking
emotionally
about,
abused,
right, if you're talking about being the head of the home,
right,
then you need to be using Jesus as the example.
Exactly.
And the example, he gave up a lot. He was giving up all the time.
More than a lot. He gave up everything.
He gave up everything.
He gave up his home in heaven.
Yes.
He gave up his great body. But he didn't have a body. I guess he was a spirit. So he came down here and took on our messed up physical form.
He came as a baby.
He had to live in somebody else's womb first. And then as a man, he didn't even have his own home. He had to rely on other people for a place to stay. It's like everything you see Jesus doing, it's him giving something up.
So really
it's not him being in charge.
Right. So really being head of the home is being the ultimate.
It's the lead giver-upper.
Right. I was trying to find a way to say that. Let me say it right.
I lead in giving up.
Leading and giving up.
That's what I do. That's what it means for me
Ultimate
to do.
leader in giving up.
Exactly right.
I wanted to say something else, but I couldn't find the word.
So the worst thing in the world that I can do as a husband, the worst thing is to physically abuse my wife. Worst thing I can do. Because the Bible has given me headship in this house. And for me to abuse that by physically harming my wife, that's the worst thing I can do. So I'm saying sometimes what's necessary is to separate. You got to do it. Get to safety. And maybe that'll wake your spouse up and they'll say, I don't want to lose my spouse. Let me get help.
It can't be that then they call and say, oh, I don't want to lose you. Please come back. And then you just come back. Right. There has to be we're going through these steps for healing before there is any physically coming back together. There has to be a whole process there. But again, that outside help will help to guide you on how to do that. And I think we feel like therapy is a negative.
It's not.
It's not at all. No. That's something that we feel like everybody needs some form of therapy at some point.
That's true. And it can help you.
It can.
Okay, Nosy, I know, we only have like 50 minutes left, so I don't know what you want to do here, but.
That's a tough one. I do have a question.
Okay.
Wow.
It's completely up to you. You guys run the show. It's up to you.
I'll go with this question because I think it's one that we don't like to ask very often because we're Adventists and, and all the rest of it. But we're going to go for it. What do you do if your husband doesn't satisfy you sexually?
That's a really good one. We talk about this too, guys. So let me just say, this 30-day intimacy boot camp that we have, by the way, let me just throw this up one more time so that you see it there. This is all the places that you can follow us. This is for the latecomers who may not know. We actually have a marriage ministry. You can find us on YouTube, Just John and April. You can find us on Facebook. We actually do a live Wednesday night. I guess it would be a bad time for you though. You're 5 hours ahead of us. 9 o'clock for us, I guess would be 2 or 3 in the morning. Maybe it's 2 in the morning or something like that for you guys. So if you were going to watch it live, you'd have to be up at 2 a.m. to watch that live. But you can watch the rebroadcast all the time on Facebook. It's a live show that we do there. And then we have Instagram as well. You can find us any of these places.
And we really want you guys to subscribe and follow us because that's where you can keep up with all the different things that come up.
That's exactly right. So it's helpful. Anyway, we're doing this 30-day intimacy boot camp right now with a group of 41 couples in which we're talking about all these different kinds of things. We're talking about a bunch of abstract stuff that leads to intimacy and better intimacy. But we're also talking about the last module that we're going to do in the last week is going to be actually about the bedroom. And we do have a video. We have a video on our YouTube channel. I don't remember the title of it, but the title has something to do with my husband doesn't satisfy me or something like that. There are a couple of things you can do. The first thing is we believe that physical satisfaction in the bedroom happens when we talk to each other openly about the things that we like and don't like.
Yes.
So there are times when after we're finished with a session together that I will actually ask April if I tried something new or something like that. Did you like that?
Right. So we have like a discussion afterwards.
Yes.
Let's talk about what just happened.
Right.
What did you like? What didn't you like? And what we notice is that couples have a hard time talking about their sexual experience with each other. So they hold in, they don't share because they don't want to make the other person feel bad. They don't want to embarrass. But look, we talk about communication in marriage. That's one thing every marriage coach or anything says there must be communication, right? Yes. So we're talking about even in the bedroom, there has to be communication where you talk about your sexual satisfaction.
Yes.
And you have to be open to say, I really didn't like that much. Or, when you ask me to do that, it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable.
Well, I'm a little degraded doing this or that.
Or I need more of this.
Yes, exactly.
I need you to do this again.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, I'm going to say something that's a little
risque.
That's
okay.
Go ahead, sister. Go ahead, sister.
But we would even say that it is sometimes necessary to show your spouse what to do.
Yes.
Mercy.
Seriously.
Demonstrate it.
Demonstrate.
Say, I need you to do this way.
This is what I need you to do.
Yes.
And this is how it looks. Let me take you and let me show you how.
Yes.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
This is, and we forget that sex was created by God before sin.
Guys,
sometimes we forget that.
We forget about
we
that.
forget that it was created for us to enjoy. And if you don't believe that, if you don't know that, you need to go to Songs of Solomon.
Read Song of Solomon.
If you have never read Song of Solomon.
Yes. You will see right there.
The word,
husband and wife
the word
enjoying
God
each other.
is not even in the book.
They never talk about having kids.
They never talk about having kids. It's all about enjoying each other's bodies. That's it. Sometimes in the book, you will see that they're bragging about each other's bodies to their friends. Okay. So that's just a sign, and that's in the Bible.
Exactly. So it really should be shame-free. There's, by the way, we have a whole thing on this too.
Whole thing on shame-free.
There is a text in scripture in the beginning where the Bible says that after Adam and Eve were created, that the man and his wife were both naked and felt no shame. So sex was designed by God in the beginning as a gift and should be shame-free. So part of the reason why we have trouble talking about all this stuff is that there's so much shame around it. It's hard to do. So husbands, I think, first of all, you need to give your wives permission to have the conversation. And go ahead and get ready for your ego to be bruised. That's okay. Your wife is going to find a way to say it nicely. But the reality is, if she's not sexually satisfied by you, she may not be telling you because she knows it's going to be a blow to your ego. You have to give her permission to tell you. Say, how do you feel overall? Scale of 1 to 10. Just be honest. Hit me right between the eyes. Just tell me. Am I satisfying you most of the time when we engage in this? Are you usually satisfied? And she'll say, well, most of the time it's a 3. That's okay. That's gonna hurt. Then you're gonna say, okay, what could I do differently to get that to a 10? Because I want it to be a 10 every single time. What can I do differently to get it there?
But see, it has to be that he wants to satisfy his wife.
Exactly.
So if you want to satisfy your wife, you will open that door for her to talk about it. You will say, hey, how do you like our sexual experiences? You have to open that door.
Now, 1 Corinthians 7 has a key here, because 1 Corinthians 7 calls it our marital duty. It is your husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. Okay, that's what the Bible says. It's talking about, if you look at 1 Corinthians 7, 3-5, you look it up. If you look it up in the NLT, I think it actually calls it fulfilling your spouse's sexual desires or something like that. The idea is, my marital duty is to fulfill April sexually. That's part of my job description when I become her husband. And her job description as wife is to fulfill me sexually. That's part of what we do. So I don't go into the bedroom selfishly. I go in saying, my goal is to make sure that when this is over, she's fulfilled. And if that's her goal for me, then every time we do it, we'll enjoy it.
And if you don't know how to fulfill, if you don't know what it is that they need, then you need to ask.
That's it. Have a conversation.
And if the question is hard to ask, then I need to be able to come and tell. I need to be able to say, hey, I want to talk to you about our sex life. Can we have a heart to heart? Can we have heart to heart where there's nobody's getting upset about it? Maybe you need to approach that and say, hey, can we talk about this? Because I really want to enjoy sex with you. So here are some things that I need you to do. And I'm even going to show you. Do you mind, that happening? And I'm saying they shouldn't if they want both parties to be fulfilled.
And if you are in a shame-free relationship, you'll already have that openness and won't have a problem. But if there's shame already still sort of as a cloud over your sexual situation, this will be tough for you. But remember, go back to scripture. God created sex before sin. Now contemplate that for a second. Well, first of all, most people don't realize that God created it. People are thinking this is something that the devil made or something like that. Or if God made it, he just made it for us to have kids. That's not true. God made it as a blessing for us to enjoy, and it's supposed to be shame-free before sin.
Okay, so I just have to say, but what if you as the wife are not sure either how he can improve, but know that he is not hitting the mark in making you reach orgasm? Well, you might have to together
make some discoveries.
You might have to read some things. There are sex therapists out there. Listen, we see sex, there's such a shame in it.
That and it's off to the side.
We would never think to find a sex therapist for our marriage. We just wouldn't do that because we feel like something's wrong with that, or that's bad or nasty or whatever. No, if you have no idea, I mean, we together have read articles and books
yes,
that help to enhance and make things more.
I actually have a book that I just thought about. Man, I don't remember the name of it now, though. It's in the other room. We haven't looked at it in years, but when we first got married, I had this book. It was something like, I don't remember the title at all, but it was something about making sure that your woman is satisfied every time. But I don't remember the name of it. Like I said, it's in the other room. I could go get it.
During the break.
Maybe I get it during the break or something like that. But having actual resources that you use to educate yourself about it, because there are body parts that are designed for pleasure. There's a specific body part in the female anatomy that if you don't know what it is, I'll just tell you, it's called a clitoris. If you know what that is and learn what that does, that becomes the key to making sure that every time your wife reaches orgasm, no matter what. And there are ways of doing that.
Figure out how to.
You can do this manually. You can do this with certain positions that you use. There are ways in which that. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do. It is. But you learn and grow.
You have to be willing and open.
Yes.
Because if you are stuck in your view about things, then there can't be any growth. You have to open yourself up. You have to be willing to learn.
Yes.
And if you're doing that together, then you can feel like this is us learning how to do this together, learning how to be better at this for one another. I think that can really take your relationship to another level.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. That's true.
Wow. I think this is just, it shows that you have to come back and do.
Now, like I said, we actually have specific presentations that we do on this spiritual headship idea. We have ones on what was I just saying just now?
Sex and marriage.
The sex and marriage and stuff like that. Which we're really dealing with right now during this intimacy boot camp. So when we do another one, we're going to do another one in May, probably. We'll get information to you. Maybe you could join it and that will help you out a lot.
Yeah.
I guess we also have a responsibility as we're raising the next generation as well.
Definitely.
When we were growing up, we were just we didn't talk about sex, did we? We didn't, and it was always that we just don't do, and we never talked about the good parts and how it can be such a beautiful thing in marriage. So
you're right.
And that's because there's a shame base there.
Exactly. There was shame around it. And so we treated it like that. And we kept it sort of at bay. And like you just said, the only conversations our parents had with us were basically, don't do it. You could get pregnant. You could get a disease. Wait till you're married. But no real rationale behind why you should wait till you're married. Or an understanding that when God created in the first place, in the marriage context, it was supposed to give you sort of this holistic kind of experience of not just the physical, but also the spiritual. We don't learn all that stuff.
Yes. And as far as the boot camp, as far as time wise, because we are on different time zones, it's a lot of it is asynchronous.
Right.
So you're working at your pace, but there is a way for us to come together.
Yes.
But again, that is, I think that option is for you to watch later and stuff like that. But
Correct.
there's a whole way
of doing it where it's like a course that you take with videos.
Yes. So it's asynchronous. So the time zone would not affect you in that.
It wouldn't.
With this boot camp.
That's a good point though. That's an excellent point.
Glad you said something about that.
Yeah.
Also, do you have a next session to bring to us?
We do.
Okay. So what if we do the next bit and then we'll bring in any questions after, just so we can.
That sounds good. Pastor Gus, do you want to take a 5-minute break or something here? Is that a good idea?
Let's roll on.
Okay, let's roll. Okay, good.
All right.
Okay, guys. So we were already talking about being friends and the fact that you should do it. There's this other thing that we want to show you. It's called the art of supportive listening.
This is really good. I just love it so much because I think it is not only something that is needed, so needed in relationships, but it also continues that friendship that we first, that we've been talking about all along.
Yes.
So when you are listening supportively, okay, you are participating in stress reducing conversations. Okay, we're talking about stress reducing conversations that help you manage tension outside of your relationship.
Yes.
Because we have so much of tension outside of the relationship that sometimes we need something to reduce it. But being able to be listened to is a way to reduce that stress. But we're going to show you and tell you different parts of that.
So supportive listening is an exercise in giving your spouse an attentive ear so that you can have a teammate that's supporting you and knowing that you're not alone in this situation.
Right. So the motto here, the supportive listening motto is don't do something, just be there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the motto for supportive listening.
So there are times when I feel so alone in my situation that I need someone to remind me that they're in this thing along with me. Okay. And that's what supportive listening is for. And for some people, when they come home from work, they need to just talk about their day and help them decompress and relax and all that kind of stuff. And we believe that this is something that you should be able to do to provide something for your spouse. And the timing is very important. But before we say that, I just want to say this is slightly different than active listening. Have you guys ever heard of active listening? Active listening is a technique that people use oftentimes to help in conflict. So if we're having a conflict about something, especially a big conflict, we oftentimes want to use an active listening exercise, which makes it so that I can really hear you and hear your heart so that we can resolve this conflict. Oftentimes we talk back and forth over each other, or we get upset or whatever, and it makes it so that we end up missing whatever the thing is that allows us to resolve the conflict. So we put in active listening. Well, supportive listening is different. This is not something you do because you're having an argument. This is not something you do to resolve conflict. This is just something you do to help bolster your friendship with each other. You're listening supportively to your spouse, okay?
To help cope with those external stresses.
Exactly right. Yes.
So here's a good quote here that we like. Learning to cope with these external pressures is crucial to a marriage's long-term health. So here is now a way to cope with those external pressures so that your marriage can stay healthy as you continue to have those stresses going on.
Exactly right.
You can't really get rid of those, but we can learn how to cope with them.
Exactly right. Yeah. So let's start with a Bible text. Is that what we're beginning with?
So.
1 Thessalonians 5:11.
Therefore, encourage one another and build another up just as you are doing.
Okay, so this is huge. Obviously, the Bible is saying that if we're going to be able to have good relationship with each other, there's got to be encouragement, and we've got to be able to build each other up. And so we're talking about, that's what we're doing right here with this idea of supportive listening. We're encouraging each other and building each other up.
Yeah, so there are times when you are sharing something important with your spouse or something that's very difficult, and all you want is a comforting response.
Yes.
That's all you want. That's all you need is a comforting response.
Yeah.
However, we sometimes think our partner is sharing that with us so that we can give our opinion or we
fix the situation.
But that's not always the reason why our spouse needs to share something with us. It's not all about us having to fix it for them or giving our opinion about it. Sometimes it's just that we want you to listen.
And it turns out you can actually grow in your togetherness by going through negative experiences. Experiences that generate the most negative emotions also have the capacity to build the strongest bonds.
Yes.
So if we find a way to get through those negative times together, that will actually help us to form a nice bond with each other. So when my wife comes to me with an issue about something that happened at work, for instance, if I listen to her supportively, even though she had this extremely negative situation, that can help us to bond with each other instead of, pushing us further away from each other.
So when listening to reduce stress and bring comfort, okay, these are 4 steps that we need to follow. So we're going to go through the 4 steps and we'll make sure we get through these.
Yeah, we'll be able to get through it in time. Yes, no problem.
Okay.
Step number 1.
Right, step number 1, listen without interruption.
Listen without interruption. So we're teaching you now how to listen supportively, how to have a supportive listening session with your spouse.
Right.
Okay.
And this is hard for us. This is hard for us sometimes because we like to respond.
Yes, we
do.
Let's
look at the text that helps us with this. I love this text. It's stupid and embarrassing to give an answer before you listen.
Proverbs 18:13. Stupid and embarrassing to give an answer before you listen.
So sometimes we might want to jump in and say what we, cut the person off and say, why would you do that or whatever?
Right.
When really the person doesn't even want you to say anything. They just want you to listen.
Right.
And you look stupid jumping in, saying things that, is not even wanting to be heard at the moment.
Exactly. So before we really know what's going on, we've got to listen. So let's take the time to listen without interruption to our spouse.
Yes. So too often we're trying to fix each other's situations. We know that comes out of love, but too often we're trying to give advice. All right. And our partner is not always needing that, which is what we said earlier. But we want it to be where when I'm talking, he's showing genuine interest. And the way to do that is to talk to me, allow me to speak, and there's no distractions, there's no interruptions. I have your full attention, and all you're doing is listening.
I'm showing you I care when I do that.
Exactly.
And that's an important part of this.
And so the response really should just be, show me you're listening with your body language, or maybe a little, wow, really? But no real response.
Like no interruptions.
No interruptions. Yeah. But just a listening ear, and you're showing me that you're listening through your body language. Okay.
Okay. Number 2.
All right. Number 2, respond to each other's venting with empathy and without judge. I'm sorry. Did I? Oh no, I did that right. Okay. Right.
Empathy without judgment.
Yes. Respond with empathy.
Yes.
Okay. So
respond
Romans 12:15. Let's go to the text. Here.
All right. When others are happy, be happy with them. When they are sad, be sad. All right. Now this is important because you've heard of sympathy before, and of course you've heard of empathy. There are 2 different things. Sympathy is just feeling sorry for somebody, but empathy is trying to feel what they're feeling.
Feel their pain.
Yeah.
Putting your feet in their shoes.
Exactly. So that's why the Bible says, when I'm happy, you're happy. When we're sad, we're sad. Okay. All of us together. This is what it means to be part of the body. Well, it also means the same thing when you're in a relationship. If I want to be a supportive listener, if I want to give April my support in a situation, I'm going to respond to her. When I finally do respond, I'm going to do it with empathy.
Yes. And it's because we know each other really well. We know our spouse very well. Sometimes we think we can tell why they're having these deep issues or feelings. We can say, well, the reason why is because you are like this or that.
Right.
Many times we might judge them by saying things like, well, you did that to me. Or I remember when you did that to your boss,
yeah.
Or, you are kind of this or that. So I can see why they responded that way. That's not really what your spouse needs when we're trying to respond with empathy.
So remember, let's just make it an actual situation, right? So April comes home from work and she's upset about something that happened at her job. Maybe her boss is being overbearing about a project that is due or something like that. And so April comes home to me and says, you won't believe what my boss was doing earlier today. And I'll say, wow, what happened? And then she'll say, he was coming down on me again about the fact that I still haven't turned in my assignment to him. Now, if I respond to her by saying, well, you do tend to be kind of late with your stuff, though.
Right.
You kind of do have a problem in this area. Now, I may mean that in a positive way, but that's not actually supportive listening. I first should not cut her off. But then when I do finally say something, I should be responding with empathy. So I should be saying, like, I can see how that would make you feel the way that you're feeling.
Or I know you don't like when things like this happen.
Like, or, oh, wow, that's terrible. Man, I wish that wasn't happening to you right now.
Right. I wish you didn't have to go through that. Oh, I could see how you feel unappreciated at work.
Yeah. So that's responding with empathy. And sometimes I think we are so good at diagnosing the issue and trying to help our spouse to get better with that. Right. Or we use the opportunity when they say something to basically tell them about a problem that we've had with them too.
Yes, so
you do this all the time. That annoys me and whatever.
Yes.
But we're missing a chance to connect with our spouse by actually listening supportively to them. Because remember, we're on the same team. That's what we're really trying to get at in this situation.
Right. So this type of listening is not for you to agree or disagree. Okay. So you may not agree with your partner. You may not agree that the boss was wrong.
Yeah.
But this is not the time to say that.
That's exactly right.
Okay. This is the time to just support and say, okay, I know this person. So I know that something like that would bother them. Again, putting yourself in their shoes. So responding with, I know how that can make you feel.
And that must be terrible.
And that must be terrible for you.
You're empathizing now.
Okay. You're not lying. You're not making up. You're not pretending to agree.
Right.
But what you're doing is you're supporting them. You're showing them that you empathize with them and that you can understand how they feel. Okay.
So it turns out that understanding must precede advice.
Yes.
So before I'm ready to give you any advice anyway, I need to understand where you're coming from. And you're more likely to get and receive my advice if you feel like you're being understood. So I've got to give you that feeling. And the way that I do it is by empathizing with you. Right. I'm showing that I understand where you're coming from, how you're feeling. And that's an important thing to do.
And then once I feel that that I'm being supported in that way, I'm now ready for the advice.
Exactly.
I'm now ready for the opinions that come from it.
But we're still not doing that.
We're not doing that. We're not ready for that yet.
Step number 3, demonstrate your support.
Exactly. So you might have to demonstrate your support Oh, you want to do the text first?
Let me read the text.
Okay.
Here's Song of Solomon 2:6.
Put your left hand under my head. Let me do it.
And embrace me with your right arm.
Okay. What does that look like? Okay. So
that's support.
That looks like a physical gesture of support.
Yes.
All right. So here we are now saying that sometimes you need to show affection.
Yes.
When I have verbally told you how I feel, I've shared something with you, I may need you to physically show me, hold me, put your arm around me, say, I love you, and give me a hug. And that message says, I care about what you're going through. It might be that whatever's happening is causing me stress or anxiety, physical anxiety.
Yeah.
I may need you to calm me with a touch. Okay.
Very true.
And it may be even that a shoulder to cry on, or here's a bath. I'm gonna draw a bath for you because I want you to know that I see you are stressed physically, and I want to help to calm that down.
Yes. Now what I'm doing here is I'm actually validating your emotion. So I've already validated it in a way verbally by responding with empathy, but now, especially for a person, I don't know if you guys have done the 5 love languages or if you're familiar with that sort of theory. The 5 love language theory has to do with, I can know that you love me in my head. You know, I can know it intellectually, but still never feel it because you're not speaking my love language. Well, one love language is physical touch. So especially for a physical touch person like April is, if she now is giving me these things and telling me these things that are going on in her situation at work, and I want to support her, one of the ways I might do it would be to just touch her and say, it's going to be all right.
Right. And that makes me feel supported.
How do you feel right now?
I feel very good.
It's a good thing. It's a very important aspect of this whole thing. So you don't interrupt at first, then you respond with empathy, then you show support physically with some kind of physical gesture, a hug, a shoulder to cry on, a rubbing, something to show them you're there with them, and you're going to do that, along with them.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right.
Last one. Point number 4.
I love this one. I think this is my favorite out of all.
This is the best one.
I think this is my favorite. Take your spouse's side.
Take their side. Side with them.
We're leaving it quiet for a minute, just so you can think about that.
I don't know how often you do this, but this is one of the areas that April and I really had to improve on when it came to this kind of thing. And this is probably the biggest area that has grown our friendship as in our relationship.
Definitely.
And that is me taking her side in situations. All right, so here's the text.
Galatians 6:2. Carry each other's burdens. And in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ.
When we side with each other, we're literally carrying each other's burdens.
That's right.
That's what's happening. We're basically demonstrating we're on the same team.
We're on the same team.
Yes.
We think this one is above the rest because you need to feel like you have a ride or die.
Yes.
Okay. When we say ride or die, we mean this is my teammate.
Yes.
I know I can depend on this person.
Yes. No matter what.
No matter what,
Yes.
they're going to have my back.
Yes.
You need that in your marriage because you have all these other things in life that doesn't have your back.
That's right.
Sometimes your job can just be burdensome. We love our children, but even your children sometimes with, you're just trying to train them and raise them. It can be difficult.
Yes.
It can be a stress.
Yes.
And so you need somebody who's going to be there to take your side, to say, I understand, I know what you're going through. And so
basically, here are some things you can say.
That's right.
We need to give you prompts and ways to say it because I don't think you know how to do this.
But let me say this though.
Go ahead.
When I'm angry, I want him to be angry with me.
Yes.
You see, this is what we
This
need.
is the Bible just said.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you fulfill the law of Christ. That previous text said, when others are happy, be happy with them. When they're sad, be sad with them.
So it's the same thing.
You know what I'm saying?
When
Same
I'm
exact
sad, I
idea.
want him to be sad. That's a ride or die. That's a
right.
ride or die. So
Yes.
your boss is wrong for that.
Exactly.
That's what I want you to say.
Yes. I wish I was there because if I was, I would have given them a piece of my mind. Okay. Now I'm siding with my spouse.
That's right. Why would he do that to you?
Yeah, right.
Or why would she do that to you?
Yeah. Man, these people really don't appreciate that you do that. Man, do I need to call them right now?
Now, let's take it back because even though it sounds negative, it sounds like we're saying, yeah, we're going to go,
Yeah, we're not really going to fight
But
anybody.
I do want to feel like you'll roll your sleeves up with me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But we also want to be Christ-like in our response. We're not saying we're going to go beat anybody down.
We're not really doing
that.
But
sometimes you need your spouse to respond in kind.
Yes.
You need them to say, man, you know what? I get it. I could see why you want to go off on her.
Right. Yes.
Now, After you have had that moment, then you can calm down and say, okay, now how should this be handled? How should you handle this in the right way? But initially, I need you to have my back.
That's right.
Okay.
So we don't encourage the negative stuff, but you need to make sure that you find a way to really connect with your spouse and show them, I am actually on your side.
Yes.
It's
Now
the two of us together.
I do want to say this. It needs to be a true reaction.
Yes.
So what I mean by that is there may be a lot of the situation that you don't agree with. Then you need to find that one. You need to find that thing that you can say that, man, I get that.
I'm with you.
I'm with you on that.
Yes.
You know, you need to find that so that your spouse can feel that teamness, that connection, again, that ride or die. They need to be able to feel that so they know that you've got their back. It's you guys against the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So somebody just asked, what if your husband or wife are completely wrong about the situation?
Well, that's what we're saying.
Right.
There are times when, you know, we have been wrong about the situation, but you can still show support in that by finding a way to say, you know this person, okay? You know this person very well. So I know that the situation, John did not handle it right. But what I can say is, I know how this can be stressful for you. I can say that.
Yes.
I can say, I know how difficult that was to let that person go at work. You know, you're a boss, you had to fire some people. I didn't agree with why you fired them. But I can say, I can see that was very difficult for you. I can't imagine having to be the one to do that.
Now, what we said earlier was, to the person that just asked that question, what we said earlier was, if I understand you, that's going to open the gateway for advice.
That's right.
So it's possible
you got to understand first.
Yes, it's possible that after having a supportive listening session, that your spouse will be open to your advice. Maybe you don't give it to them then. Maybe it comes hours later. Maybe it comes the next day. Yes. Hey, you know what? I was thinking about that thing we talked about yesterday. You know what I was thinking? I wonder if you should have handled it a little bit differently. And they might say, well, what do you mean? And you say, well, you know, maybe you could have done this instead. What do you think about that? And then I say, oh, wow, that's true. I never thought about it. Now they're open to it. Exactly. But the time to do it is not during the time they need your support. They're in stress right now. They're in crisis. And here's what we're trying to get you to do. We're trying to get you to see. The most important thing in your relationship is not being right. Let me rewind and say that again.
Say it again.
Being right is not the most important aspect of your relationship. The most important aspect is connection.
Yes.
That's the most important aspect.
Right.
Your job as husband and wife is to connect with each other, to make sure you know we're in this thing together, no matter what it is. And even when you're wrong, I'm still with you.
I'm still with you.
Even with when you're dead wrong, it's me and you. I'm gonna support you. If no one else in the world supports you, I'm gonna support you.
That's right.
So we've got to demonstrate that connection. Now, I want to help you with this thing.
That's right.
But it's not gonna be at the expense of connecting. Exactly. So if you come to me and I see right away that what you're doing is wrong, and I cut you off and say, whoa, this is where you messed up right there, I missed an opportunity to connect with you. What you need from me is for me to help you bring that stress down so we can connect, and then you'll be wide open for any advice that I have.
But also the way that you give that advice.
True.
I'm going back to what I've said since we started this workshop.
Yeah.
And that is, there cannot be a response in judgment or criticism. So if I feel that the way you're responding to me is judgmental, or you're criticizing me, or you're coming to me as if you're better or superior, that is not going to ever go well.
Yeah.
It's always going to turn into a conflict. Okay?
Every single time.
Every single time.
Yeah.
So once you have understood your spouse and you've done that supportive listening, and now that person, your spouse is now ready for that advice or ready for your opinion, it then has to be done in a positive, loving way, not judgmental and critical.
Yes. Okay, so we just want to take 5 minutes real quick for you guys to practice this with each other right now.
Yes.
Okay. You're going to turn to your spouse and you're going to try to follow these 4 steps. Remember what the 4 steps are. The first one is listen without interruption. Let your spouse talk about something that they're upset about. This is something that has nothing to do with your relationship. Remember, this is not a conflict.
Stress.
This is outside your relationship. This is something about your job. This is something about your kids. It's even not about the two of
family,
you.
Even extended family or friends or church.
Exactly. So you start by listening without interruption. Then when you do respond with empathy. Then demonstrate your support physically with some kind of, touching or gesture or something like that. Then take your spouse aside. Okay. Yes. I want you to do that right now for the next 5 minutes. And while we're doing this, I'll go try to find that book and I'll bring it back in here. Okay.
All right.
There was something we should have started with at the beginning of that.
Well, let's just say, first of all, I just want to say, I hope you guys got something out of that.
Yes.
If your spouse is not with you, you can actually do these, you can share with your spouse what took place.
Yes.
And then you can actually do some of these drills with them
later. You should later on. So
yes.
Let me just say that the book that I was looking for, I did not find. I have no idea where it is.
It's probably in a box.
It's probably in a box somewhere because we moved. We've lived here for about 2.5 years now, almost 3 years.
You all know how it is when you move. You keep stuff in boxes.
I'm a pastor. Stuff gets, anyway, so I don't know where it is. But we have 2 books that we think are really good. Now, let me just say also, April and I are actually writing a book on sex. It's not complete yet. When it is done, we'll be able to suggest our own book. But for right now, there are 2 books that are excellent that we think can unlock something for you as husbands and wives.
So good.
This one's called For Women Only.
Don't move it, just stay
there. We go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For Women Only. And you see it's by Shanti Feldhen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. All right, there we go. And there's another one called For Men Only. And this is the same author, but with her husband, Jeff. Okay? So For Women Only and For Men Only. And the way the book works is the whole book For Men Only is written to men. And it's basically, the subtitle is A Straightforward Guide to the Inner Lives of Women. So when you're trying to figure out your spouse, trying to figure out your wife, what makes her tick and all of that, this book right here is amazing. Same things, wives, for your husbands. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a section here, chapter 6. The title is With Sex, Her No Doesn't Mean You. Chapter.
You can go here.
Where? Thank you, baby. There's another one on sex in here too. Where is it?
I think you're thinking about this one.
Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. There are several sections about sex in the For Men Only one.
Sex
too.
Changes Everything. Mm-hmm. That's another.
Why sex unlocks a man's emotions, and then in parentheses it says, "Guess who holds the key?"
This is really good.
So there are parts of these books. They're going to open up everything for you, but also some areas of sexuality that are going to help you with being able to know how to do what you do there. Thank you for putting those in the chat, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes. Anyway, we'll open things up now
for.
Did you
want to do the survey?
Oh, sorry. So there was a survey we were supposed to have done at the beginning of this. I want to do it right now. It may not be as impactful. Let me see.
Just say share.
No, I want number 1.
4. There you go.
Of the next one.
Yeah.
Here's the first poll question. We take time to listen to each other without distractions. So be honest. You know it's important now, but be honest with us. Do you actually do that already in your relationship? We take time to listen to each other without distractions. There's a lot of sometimes, which of course it should be. Some nevers though. Mm-hmm. We'll take about 20 more seconds. We'll do 1 full minute on each one of these. And half of the people, a little more than half of the people have voted so far. Okay, another 10 seconds. And then we'll end this one. We'll show you the results.
Okay, somebody put most of the time in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should have put most as one of them, instead of all. Okay, here are the results. Only 5% or 5 people, 7% said always, 78% said sometimes, and then 15% said never. So we've got to get to the point where we up that number. For those of us that said never, we got to find ways to actually listen to each other without distraction.
So doing that purposely doing that, like finding ways to put aside your things and be there to just listen.
That's good. That's going to impact your intimacy. Yes. Okay, here's another one.
We understand each other's feelings. So this is what we're talking about, being understood. We understand each other's feelings.
Mm-hmm. I like watching it climb. All right, we're about 30 more seconds. 30 seconds in. It's like more people are voting this time. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 10 seconds, and then I'll end this one. Okay, here are the results for that one. We understand each other's feelings. There are 15% said always.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
76% said sometimes, and then 10% said never.
Wow.
Now, part of the reason why you might not understand your spouse may be because you don't take enough time to really listen. And listening supportively is going to help you with that.
It will. So hopefully you'll use these strategies.
All right, last one. Here's a third question.
We demonstrate support to one another when venting about issues outside of our marriage, work, extended family, etc. We demonstrate support to one another when venting about issues outside of our marriage.
Well, that sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 30 seconds. Okay, guys, 10 seconds left, and then I'll close this one and we'll look at that result as well. Okay. So 44% said they always show support when venting about issues outside of the marriage. 51% said sometimes, only 5% said never. So that's pretty good. Sounds like we have a pretty good understanding when it comes to something outside that's not threatening me and you and we're doing. We're okay listening to that. And that's a positive thing. Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing those and for showing where you are with that in your participation. Thank you very much. So what we want to do is we have about 5 minutes, Pastor Lawrence. If you want to open things up again for more questions, I do want to put this up one more time so that you can see who we are and where to find us. You can follow us on all of our social networks, either Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. And the hashtag, the tag is about the same, Just John and April. So if you go to YouTube and search Just John and April, you can subscribe to our channel there and you'll get much more stuff.
Every Friday, we come out with a new episode, and we would love for you to join us in those conversations.
That's right.
Those talks.
Yeah, on Facebook, on Wednesdays, we have something that we do live on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. That is about 2 a.m. for you, but you can watch the replay, obviously, if you're not awake. And then we do things on Instagram as well. All of these things to try to help and show things about what marriage should be like and how you should be doing relationship stuff.
We have a lot of fun with it.
We do.
We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of laughs and good talk.
We'd love you to join our community in one of those ways. So feel free to do that. Pastor, we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Nosy?
I've only got one question. I guess it's,
let's just take that one question.
The one question. It's on infidelity again. And how can you trust your husband? I know we've talked about the trust, but if your husband's cheated on you 3 times, I thought we've kind of answered that question a little bit, but if you've been cheated on 3 times, how do you trust your husband again?
So three times is a lot. I want to say that if you're trying to restore trust, there has to be a commitment to change.
Yeah.
And so the things we talked about before was to be an open book, saying here's my cell phone password, here's my laptop password, whatever, that now I'm just going to be an open book to you. There's nothing that I'm holding or keeping a secret. We also talked about being patient, and we talked about having accountability. But there's got to be a desire to change. And I'm not saying the fact that you cheated 3 times meant you didn't want to change, but it might be an indicator that you don't really want to change. The person who is doing the cheating, I would say to you, you've got to figure out a way to get in touch with the kind of pain that you're causing your spouse. And once you're in touch with that pain and understand how much you're hurting her or him, I'm not sure which one's the one in the situation, then you've got to find a way to ask the Lord to help you to feel that before you do this egregious act again. Sometimes that is a helpful thing, to know that I'm putting my spouse through this terrible ordeal, and she's in turmoil, she's hating herself, she's unsure of herself. She's now wondering whether or not she can be loved by anybody because I keep stepping out on her. Those are the things you need to get in touch with in order to really have that change. But you've got to pray through that thing and ask the Lord to really help you to get in contact with that, because you, as the repeat offender, you've got a problem.
But I would also say that the person who's cheating needs to figure out, why do you keep doing that?
Right.
What is it that's making you not be able to stay committed?
Yes.
You may be needing to talk to somebody to figure out what is it that's making you not be able to commit to this one person that you say you love. So
if you're going to change and stop cheating on your spouse, you're going to have to work on other areas that you don't think are connected, which are connected and you just don't realize it.
Right.
If you watch pornography, stop watching pornography.
Exactly.
If you watch salacious television shows, you may have to stop watching those. I'm talking about things with nudity in them or sex scenes or anything. It may start making you think about somebody else. By the way, the reason why pornography is so dangerous is because pornography is acting. Right. All the people there are acting. That's not real. And here you are thinking that that's what sex is really supposed to be. And it's not actually what it is. It's not it at all. You're chasing something that's not even achievable. Right, those people are acting. Right. So it gives you a false sense of you have your expectations are all off. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So there are probably triggers that lead you down that road. Listen to this. This is something our professor taught us at Oakwood. His name is James Doggett. He taught us this. He said, before you run a red light, you always first ran a yellow light. That means before you get to the point of cheating, you always first went through something that God put in your way to slow you down so that you wouldn't get there. God actually helps us with our temptation. He actually tries to make it so that we won't end up sinning. True. So he's given you yellow lights. What did you do? You got to start recognizing that. What are you doing in those situations to trigger that, to get you back on the road toward cheating when in fact you're trying to remain faithful, if you're trying. Right. And see, that's what I'm saying. If there is a true want for change, then you may need to go back and look at your past as your childhood. Sometimes things from your childhood can affect the decisions that you make in marriage. Yeah. It actually has a lot of impact. But what we do is sometimes those things were negative in our childhood. So we put it way back and we shut it off so that we don't have to deal with it. And we don't realize it's creeping back up. It creeps back up. Subconsciously. It's subconsciously. And you don't even realize it because you have shut that door to even think about it. Yeah. But you may need to open that door and talk to somebody professionally who can counsel you through that, who can help you to discover why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, why do you continue doing that when you know it is hurting the family? Yeah. That's very, and I always say, why are you married if you're going to hurt the person you're married to over and over again? Yeah. So that's hopefully some good counsel. I really do. Yeah.
That's excellent. I mean, we could probably stay on for like another hour coming in, but I'm mindful of the time. And so I'm going to stop there. But guys, thank you so much. We will welcome you back. Hopefully we can make a plan to have you back again. And maybe we can jump on to one of your programs as well. I watched your anniversary video. That was really good. That was really good.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And to everyone out there, if you've missed any part of this, if you go onto SEC Media on YouTube, you can catch it. Again, a few people have been asking that question, and in I think the bank holiday weekend in May, look out, there'll be more sessions coming up for you to join in. But once again, thank you to April and to John for sharing all of that wisdom. It's been amazing. And we've learned so much, so I'm going to definitely go back to the YouTube channel and just watch it all over again, just to take it all in. Pastor Gus, would you like to add?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, guys. Pastor John and Pastor April. You're a pastor, man. Sister Pastor.
I'll stick with teacher.
Look, on behalf of my conference, my administrators, my president, the secretary, and the treasurer, and the directors, we want to thank you so much for the time you spent with us today. It's been extraordinary, and you sacrificed your time. We know we're 5 hours ahead. You know, you had to wake up early. You've done a lot of preparation to keep us alert and attentive. Yeah, and they provided a lot of information and resources for us today that, sure enough, we will put into use. And we want to thank you so much. Indeed, Nosy did say to you that we will be looking to you. In fact, we'll keep in touch. We'll keep in touch.
Yes.
You certainly will be make plans for you to come back, you and April, to do something with us again. And for the rest of you, all of you wonderful people, look, this thing has been free, hasn't it? You guys enjoying yourselves. This thing you pay a lot of money for is free. You're not even giving us £5 to each to say, Pastor, here's a $5 to help with expenses. Oh, no, too bad. Oh, no, too bad. Hey, no, I think a lot of fellows, brothers, sisters from Africa, I think I could ask you for some money. But look, we want to thank all of you for today and for everything. And we look forward to having you again. So, as Nosy said, look out. Go back to the, please look on the SEC channel webpage for some of the programs we have coming up. Please support our program. The next one we have coming up is one for singles. You have a lot of singles. In fact, I've seen few singles on this program today. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. I don't know what you're looking for, what you want to hear. You shouldn't be here. However, we got a program planned for you. I think it's the 11th of April. Please look out for it. And other programs for couples, please look out for it. So we want to thank you. And Pastor John and Pastor April, thank you so much. May God bless you. Nosy, thank you so much for your support. I know you're always here. And Dwayne Davison, you know, I can always rely on you, our media man from the SEC. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you. You've never said no to me. You're always there to help and to make sure our program, all of our programs run smoothly. So we want to thank you. Let's close with a word of prayer. Father, we want to thank you for today. We pray a special blessing on the ministry of Pastor April and Pastor John. May the ministry grow from strength to strength. May many men and women in church and outside church be blessed by their ministry and what they do. Open doors for them, and Lord, do for them that only which you alone can do. Bless the rest of us and keep us in your grace. Thanking you so much, Lord, for all of your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
So much.
We enjoyed ourselves thoroughly.
Yes, we did.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.
They're 110.
So Nosy, just stay on a little bit.
No problemo. That was good.